The following is brought to you by the Starfleet Podcast Network, SPN, The Spin.
No problem. You think you have as an adult. Damn it, my pips are running out.
Yeah. Oh, the first
What does
world
that mean?
problems. We run out of rank pips.
On a red alert.
I'm Big J with Beyond Trek Podcast. I am here with Sam Cockings, who is fan film production extraordinaire. You are actor, director, writer. You do CGI, editing, any stunt work. I must be missing something because there's a lot.
No. Although I was a stunt hand once. I do play a hand and occasionally a shoulder double. So I guess you could add that to my resume of shoulder doubling.
Oh, you did a hand double and shoulder double. Okay.
I don't want to bring the actor back just for a close up sometimes. It's like
Just use my
Paul
shoulder.
Phaser. Yeah. I couldn't get Alan Ruck, so I had to be his shoulder.
That's understandable. I went through the list of fan films that you had me check out, the fan film productions that you're part of, and I've got to tell you, I've made some notes here on all of those.
Because you're
Yes.
new, so this is exciting. You've not been here with us through the journey. You just get to experience it fresh, which is very exciting.
Yes, it is exciting, and I've got to tell you, just as a whole, the value that you put into these is extraordinary. I mean, I am talking top-notch stuff that is, it looks like you're really there. Now, you must be a pro at the CGI work, the green screen work, because I got to tell you, you pulled off some stuff that I don't think I've seen in any other fan film when you're not on a set, when you don't have physical set to use. So I don't even know where to start because there's so much that you've done. So let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
What possessed you one morning, wake up and say, I want to do Star Trek fan films?
Well, I didn't. I woke up one day and said Stargate fan films.
So you started with Stargate. Okay.
Yeah. Really, I've been a filmmaker since I was preteen because I went to America once, hung out with a cousin. Phones could just start doing video. We had like first gen 360p. Look, mum, it makes video.
Mm-hmm.
And we made a thing. And the first day was random skit stuff that meant nothing. Second day was narrative, and I realized I could design shots and make a narrative that was more rewarding. Came back, couldn't shake that feeling. I wanted to create more, and I've been creating films since like 13 ever since. All through school, I did a web series. I was like the school's known videographer. If they needed a promo for the school, they'd bring me in for some reason. And then university for filmmaking. It literally has been my pathway for now, over half my life, because I'm only 30. Or goddamn now I'm 30. So it's now been over half my life.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, but it's absolutely who I am. And I obviously can't stop creating because I keep creating. But no, it was first year of university. It was between the two terms. You could access the kit at the university. They had a big blue screen studio,
Uh-huh.
and the cameras. And I already had worked and got some money to invest in a better camera than they had. It's kind of ironic, but they weren't very cutting edge.
Yeah.
Nice people, not cutting edge. And I already had props and costumes from Stargate because we were huge cosplay Stargate fans. And obviously, you look at a student film, which is what it was. You don't tend to have 3 rifles, 5 costumes, CG. It was big and broad and whatever. And I released it, and it became the #1 most viewed Stargate fan film in the first 2 weeks, and it's still the most #1 most viewed fan film of Stargate in the internet in the world. And then the second year, I said, "Well, Trek's my other love," and that's how it all started. So, yeah.
And then it just took off from there.
Kinda. Sort of. It really only kicked in properly, sort of pandemic-y, post-pandemic, when it turned from being the abstract, let's make another film, to, oh no.
Yeah.
And then you saw most of the stuff was
Yeah.
the oh no. Oops.
Now, okay, so where do you film all of these?
My living room.
Okay. So is your
Which
living room like a big green screen?
We strip out stuff. We do wall to wall as much as we can. It's just big enough.
Okay.
And yeah, we were gonna hire a studio space. So we did for the first 2 films. And then we were going to for the third big film, and then it was going to cost like $1,000 for the weekend. And crowdfunding's really hard,
Yeah.
and that's an entire film's budget for me to just rent a studio, to then not be near your, you go lug everything, set up every day. It was a whole thing. So no, we just committed early on to it's pandemic. If we invest in this home studio, then everything we might make in the future, will be better. And I invested a lot of money in proper lights and proper cameras, and obviously you've seen the result. You start strong and you maintains.
I think it's better to do it that way, because if you can invest in your own space, then you can continue to use it. You can build off of it. You can make those adjustments, get different cameras, better lighting.
Or even quick, do you want to come down for half a day and shoot something quickly? You can just do that. We'd never been able to achieve that if we'd done the original studio, which would have been amazing. The space was glorious. I mean, when we did the Convergence first shoot, it was, Nick Cook came in, he flew in, and he's like, this is the biggest space I've ever shot in. It's like, yes, that was great. Not anymore. We have a couple of foot. It's creative storytelling, and, the old cheese. As long as you're in the green, doesn't matter what else around you, you're in the shot. So there's often, the boom's right there, or there's a chair right there, if it's a very busy day, because you get more and more messy the further you go in the filming day or weekend, obviously.
Well, as you know, with the green screen, you can make it look like you're anywhere. And you're right. As long as you're within that green, you could be in a 3 foot by 3 foot room, closed in with everything all around you, lights just beaming right on your face. But you can make it look like you were in a large room or a large studio. And the computer animation that you did, and I'm going to talk a little bit about each of the films you had me look at. Let's go ahead and start with that, because I've made these, watched all of these, made the notes, and
thanks for watching, by the way. It's quite a lot to watch.
Oh yeah, it was, but it was fun to watch. I really liked watching them, and
I think they're real stories and they're reasonably compelling. It's not your average fan film,
right?
It's a bit more, perhaps.
It's the compelling stories that I liked about it. You had the stories, and you also had continuations of the characters and of those stories, which is a big thing, because they're not, one-offs are great. I mean, don't get me wrong, those are fine, but you also had that payoff if you watch multiple films, if you take it from the beginning to the end. Now, I started with Temporal Anomaly, yes, and I was immediately blown away by the effect work with that, and the story of taking these ships. So to give kind of a brief synopsis of that story for those listening and watching, several Federation ships ended up in the same area. Crews disappeared. So you've got one person each ship, and this Captain Monroe character of the Mako Intrepid class ship, he just kind of nuts. He's crazy, and he wants to strip down all of these ships in order to save his crew. And
can you blame him, though?
I can't. I mean,
it's understandable.
Yes, it is. It's understandable.
Sucky for our leads.
Right. Yeah. And I read in the comments on your YouTube channel for that video that you had a custom arrangement with CBS for that one, because you started it before the new fan film guidelines came out. And what shocked me the most about that was that you were able to actually speak with a real person with CBS. Now, this sounds like it was back in the day when you used to kind of be able to talk to people, and it wasn't just automated messaging, you leaving voicemails, not getting a response. So take us through that, about the contact you had to have with CBS regards to the film Temporal Anomaly.
I mean, I don't do the full details for obvious reasons.
Yes.
That's between me and CBS.
Sure.
But no, this was started filming in 2013, when we shot for a solid 7 days with the cast, well, 5 days with the cast, and that was giant. And then we had to do the second year reshoot / get the missing pieces. So it took about 2.5 years to get the footage. But it's a very large film. We kind of thought it'd be 30 minutes, and it being 55. And then I did finish it. Well, I was getting close to finishing in 2015, 2016, 2017, whatever. But my skills kept improving.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a comparison video on the channel of where it was earlier, and then just the radical improvements that only a couple of years made. And now I look at it and think, my God, this is naff. I could do it, even if it's the same exact thing, just look a lot better. A lot better. Because the footage is very strong. Because that was what I could do back in 2013. That's what I was trained in. It's the compositing that I didn't have knowledge of. I had some, obviously, but in the sets, of course, I've just got better and better. And so it took years because I was just improving all the time. And I finally got to the point of, I'm going to release it this year. That was my big decision. And it was going great. I released a trailer. And because I wrote it in 2013, the world was very different, obviously. I was the second or third crowd-funded Star Trek fan film ever. There was me, Renegades, and Leo Tooney's Deception 1. Right at the start. I did the worst out of all of them because I was a student. But that's okay. And
we can excuse you for that.
Yeah. I've grown, it's fine. And I used the same logic as I used for my Stargate film, which was to kind of be creative with limitations. I was using new live-action footage on set, new green screen footage on a digital background, and also incorporating an actor into some show footage to put him in the middle of the situation. I thought that was really creative.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the same logic for the Star Trek in 2013. So I had the first scene of the film, which is in the trailer, be a clever sort of kit bash of moments from, I think, 3 TNG episodes in all 3 movies to create a new scene on the bridge of the E, to have it start with the Enterprise crew losing the crew against the anomaly, and then post-credit or post-titles we'd come in with Harriman, and there's no one. Because at that point, that was not... Like, there's a fan film, of course you can use show footage, who cares, right? It's a fan film, there aren't these sorts of... That wasn't even a concept. By the time I released the trailer with that concept, 6 years later, they were getting very...
Mm-hmm.
Very different world, and I didn't think anything of it, right?
Right.
So they didn't like the trailer. Assuming that my film, even though it was the first 45 seconds of 50 minutes, but that you can't know that from the trailer, so I don't blame them, right? Was that footage? So they emailed me saying, nope. And I was not going to let, 6 years of work go down the drain.
Right.
So rather than take that as an actual nope, I emailed back with the aim to negotiate. Because the email was relatively polite, and you can sort of read sometimes through an email the intent. And I read a positive intent, even if it wasn't nice for me. And I remember the day, I was here, a sinking feeling of the email, because it was horrible, because I think we were 3 days from release, technically. Where to go, leave it late, trailers reach the stay, and here you go, we'll leave it till 3
You're
days.
right there, ready to release.
Yeah. So I was that nervous. And I didn't tell anybody that I got that email, because it was too real. Like, even, I hope you'll never get this, there's even a custom thumbnail from an email from CBS Legal. It's got a separate tag logo, which is in hard-coded, because it's like illegal. Okay. But I got on the phone, within sort of a day, and I discussed, negotiated, long story I'm not going to go into, short, I got my concessions where we both won, we both lost, and I got to release the film. I did invent a new opening. I chose to make a new score, which got me my music composer, who's still with me, 6 years later, and we were the first people to get a deal. We see it continued on an informal deal, we got a formal deal, or at least email deal.
Yeah.
And we were the last people to get talked to in the fan film world since from today until then. So because at the end of the day, they're not there to be mean. That's really not what they're there for. And I wasn't there to do anything wrong. So negotiation.
That's nice that you're able to do that, because...
Well, they knew me from Trek Yards. I mean, I've been working in the Trek space for 6 years. John Messrs knew me. We'd met. This is not, oh no, some guys. It's like, oh, we know Sam. They've been monitoring our stuff. That's what... You know what I mean? I was not an unknown. I was a... Influence is a silly word. But as an abstract, yes, a Trek influencer, having done Trek for 5 or 6 years.
Luckily...
I was not an unknown.
Okay, so that was the thing. That was the part that... sounds like the piece there. You buried the lead. They already knew who you were. You weren't just a off the street newcomer, because I would have thought that they would just tell you to go piss off and not want to talk with you about it, and just, these are the rules of this, what we're going with. But
well, they're not rules. They were
guidelines. That's right, guidelines.
They're still an important clarification. And it's all 2019. So I can't speak to how they are now. I haven't heard from them in many years. But that's how they were then. and I give total credit to them. I think we had a great set of conversations. Personally, I think it went from having a stop to getting it out. I think we had a good time getting it from there to here, or there to there.
Let's talk a little bit about the next one you had me check out, a long way from
Well,
home.
did you what do you think of the twist? Because the
Oh,
twist is very. I mean, so spoilers. Because
yes.
everyone has a different opinion on the twist. What
Okay,
did you think of the
spoilers.
twist?
All right,
Spoilers.
so if you have not seen Temporal Anomaly, pause this right now, jump ahead a few minutes. I don't know. Just go watch it. So I did not see that coming as it being a holodeck exercise, like kind of a training exercise. That was a hell of a twist because there were no, of course, there were no hints to it.
There
That's
is.
that's what you were there. Okay, so
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what did I
Okay, no,
miss?
keep
that-
going. I'll go.
Okay,
keep
all
going.
right. Well, for me, then I missed it. If there were hints that it was a holodeck, I missed that, or I'd have to rewatch it. But I think that was very clever to do it like that, to show that when these officers are in between missions, and I think that's something that we tend to forget about is there is a lot of time
I
that's
made a whole
just
film about it.
nothing. It's just idle time because there's not something that's going on with them every day or even every week. Probably not even every month or few months. So what do you do
Yep.
on a ship during that time? Well, you play out these things kind of like a hollow novel. So, okay, break it to me. Where was the hint? And I missed
And
it.
it's kind of like the Last Jedi. You either love the twist or you hate it.
Right.
Because either people think it entirely devalues the threat value, or
Yeah.
you think it's so clever and you really want to see him do it again because now you're super invested in Harriman, but because I've done a good job in making the other characters feel alive, you still want to know what happens again. So it is very, very split. Most people like it, but some people don't. So a few little hints. One, Monroe's wearing the wrong colour jacket. He's in gold. Should be in red for a captain.
Okay.
It's
All
a
right.
weird hint, but it's the wrong uniform because the hologram is slightly broken. So that's a twist. That's a hint. It's funny, isn't it? Another one is that if you rewatch it, because obviously the actor's new, right? Rewatch the first like 20 minutes again. Everything Harriman expresses, he knows it's not real. All the threats, he's not taking them fully seriously. You think it's because he's a young ensign, it's not because he knows they're not real. So that's why he can stop and smell the roses because he's enjoying the scenery and just sort of having fun with the mission. The threat level is not what it should be relative to the situation. So watch his eyes, because I made him do it again and again too. He kind of felt that, and that's kind of the main sort of hints. If you watch the performance, it's kind of, yeah, yeah,
I think that's good storytelling when you have a film that encourages going back and watching it again, because now that you've revealed that the uniform thing with Captain Monroe, yes, I mean I knew that usually you see captains in the red uniforms, but in my head I
Might
was
be
thinking.
gold?
I was
Why
just
can't they be
thinking,
gold?
there's precedent. Well, if you
There
if
isn't, but they
if
could
you
be.
count Star Trek Online, which isn't,
Oh well,
it's not canon,
that could be everything then.
but yes, exactly. So it didn't
Yeah.
click that was wrong. The way I took it was it was a gold uniform he had. You guys didn't have he didn't have a red uniform
I mean,
to
in
wear.
reality, that's what it was. But after we started filming it, I'm like, oh, that's a. Cause I was going to change it in post.
Yeah.
Turns out it was more difficult at the time to do. Now it's a lot easier. And there's actually a screen used Voyager as well. That was actually worn by one of the extras, so that's why it looks so crisp. Because it's a real uniform from the show.
Ooh, nice.
Thank goodness he fit it because we only had one, obviously.
Okay, you had to be very careful with it, I'm sure.
Oh, very well made. I mean, that thing still holds up today, being 20 something years old. But yeah, very proud of Temper Anomaly, although it is something that, I will never do that level of ambition a third time because Convergence is actually bigger. But it was such an ordeal. 7 days of shooting. And everyone did it for free. That was like that was the most fan film I ever did because everyone was a student. It was for experience.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone learned all their lines. Everyone came prepared. That was a hell of a big thing. But there weren't Trek fans. No one was a Trek fan on the cast. So everyone was acting. That's why I think it's kind of a pure film in that they're actors acting parts. They're not. And I cast them. They weren't my friends. Only one of them was my friend.
Right.
then one is now Nim, who's now my friend. Like there were actors playing parts who I cast, so there's a certain, I think, good acting behind most of it, or at least all character feeling. They're not fans; they're actors. That can help.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. You want to talk about A Long Way from Home?
Yes, the pandemic film.
That was the pandemic film. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think, again, being able to do something during the pandemic must not have been the easiest thing, because now you can't really get people in the same room, same vicinity. We were supposed to not be doing that. And what I liked was you use the Kobali as your adversary there.
Yep.
And I even had to go back and think, okay, wait a minute, yes, Kobali, I know these. They're the ones that when you die, they take dead bodies and reanimate them, which is a very morbid but also very clever
Yep.
for a species. I mean, that's just, when you think about it. I love that there was a crossover with Nick Cook from Starship Intrepid, playing Captain Hunter, and the California class that you had as an Easter egg that you incorporated.
Oh, right at the end.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of films. I have to remember some things. Yeah, and what do you think of Keeley? Because she's one of our primary leads. What do you think of her?
So I watched a lot of these right after the other. You have to tell me again, because I'm horrible with names. That
Keeley's the lead of Long Way from Home, the Indian lady.
That's right. Yes. Okay. Yep. Keeley. I thought that she was very well. She did very well for that part, and because she started out, she was on the holodeck fighting the Roman soldier who's your father.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So it's a family affair. You're getting how'd you rope him into it?
Well, it was the pandemic. I could only peel from the house. Could he be in these things really? So it was kind of tricky. Yeah, and that was so funny because you can tell exactly when we filmed it. It was the 4 days between lockdowns.
Okay.
Literally, we were all locked down. The first lockdown, when we thought, oh, and then they lifted it just about, and we said, Nim, do you want to come do it this weekend? Yeah. She came down, and we re-locked down like a week later. So it was very, very lucky. Like they kept that. So we filmed her stuff. Nick was all obviously in Scotland, which is why his audio is not very good because he's good at some stuff, not good at others, and we'll always lament that. But visually, he did a very good job, and obviously his wife as well. And then Roman, because I wanted a high production value cold open. I wanted something abstract and in fact that piece I've now been able to retcon in with other films to be really more meaningful. So I'm trying to. It's a tapestry of canon I'm inventing here, and things if you remember everything, you can connect things, even if you might not get them. If you ever did like a full, like you've done a rewatch, you'll be like, oh, I see that from that. But none of it was intended in the sense of I didn't write all 20 together, but I'm able to incorporate bits and know where they are. And that was shockingly big for a pandemic film, I think.
I think it was. It was. You really pulled it off that you wouldn't have known that it was a pandemic film with how you did that. What gave you the idea of using the Kobali as your primary antagonist, just to not have it be the Romulans or the this or that or races that are used to death?
Yeah, I like Voyager a lot because they were the furthest future Star Trek, so the most advanced Starfleet tech, the most advanced alien tech, the best makeup because they were going for these more elaborate aliens. Enterprise went for more humanoid looking because they were close to home. Great, but easier. So like the Vaudois and the like big aliens were kind of Voyager. The CG was very good for its time, and they kept inventing new aliens. So I've always liked the ships, the tech. That's Voyager for me. And I really wanted to do something. It's there's a later film where they fight a mothership from Stargate. The simple idea of I want A to fight X. Okay, well, it could be a Klingon ship, or how can I make it really clever that's satisfying to a whole different audience that you've never seen before, but also I can do with stuff I have in the asset library. And I thought the Kobali are a really interesting race. This adds some bonus context, which doesn't change anything, but kind of adds something. And then being Delta Quadrant aliens makes the threat level for the episode feel much more. But all you've done is say a name. But picking the name you've created that threat level. So it's sort of it's simple storytelling, and if you know Voyager, seeing the Kabbalah ship we built is just fun. It's like, oh, no, it's small and fun.
Right.
Plus, it was obviously a reference, fighting Intrepid, Nick, a little nod to him as well because he's an Intrepid boy. So
Yep.
as well.
And you also got Michelle Specht from Star Trek Continues. And it was funny when I saw her come up, I kept thinking, wait a minute, I know this person, I know this person, I know this face. Where do I know this actress? And I had to wait for the credits to come up to get the name, then Google, and I said, oh, yes, of course, she was from Star Trek Continues, and which I'd seen all of, but it's been a while, just enough to where you could, you know how that is, when you see a face or you get a song stuck in your head, and you're like, wait a minute, I know this. I know
this. Yeah, because A Long Way From Home was meant to be a sort of We're Sorry film for Convergence, which was the second crowdfunded film, which was meant to be the Avengers of fan films, where we brought together 5 large teams together from different groups. And it was the first sort of month of production was an absolute dream. We got the script written, we got the cast lined up, we got a booking for everyone to fly in. We filmed the first weekend, we were about 50% shot. It was excellent. And then we kept having giant cast issues, because we could only get one actor back in the summer because he was at university working. So if you miss those 3 months or 2 months, that's it for another year. Then the pandemic happened. We were going to shoot in that August, and then we locked down. And Michelle was meant to come in to save the film, and we were all lined up. I've got a custom tailor uniform for her, high end. It cost, don't ask how much, because there's a lot.
In these hobbies, you don't ask how much something costs because it just kind of gives you a little bit of, oh my God, what have I done?
So we were primed, and it's great. And I didn't just, change because the original character was a male. I didn't just swap the lines. I rewrote the dialogue because you're not going to interact with a friend of 20 years who's a man to a woman. You're going to interact differently, different jokes, different chemistry. That's just the nature of it. So I did rewrite it. And then pandemic, so that was the second year push. And then she became a COVID officer, and so busy that life just became removed from what she was doing. She was unreachable for all of her friends for like a year and a half. And at that point, we just moved on from her because it's been a year and a half, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was her Skype screen read because she wasn't responding to emails. But we had that, and the film was coming out in 1 week, 6 days. So I rotoed that. That's why she's in her pajamas. But it's like either we release the film or we don't.
Right.
So it wasn't ideal. Luckily, she did a great performance in the screen read. But it is what it is. It's a nice scene, even if it's a little bit silly that she's in her pajamas. But you could argue, she's just come off the holodeck. I mean, hey, Picard at Viridian was wearing a full 17th century whatever sailing outfit, so she could have been on the gym.
There's all kinds of things. You could just film in what you woke up in. There's a lot of leeway in that because
that one time I'm very picky with canon because I feel like it's important to get it right. But that one I accepted my lot in life. That's okay.
Now let's go to the Icarus incident.
Yes.
The Icarus incident. This
is a funny one. This is a funny one.
Yes. I would have to say I really like what you did with the Nebula class, using that and the saucer separation with it. Yeah, that was... So, but this one, I kind of had... not that it was hard to follow, but it was... I don't know. It was. I was not sure. Okay, what was happening? I know that the ship's going towards a sun, but why? I think that's one of the ones that's definitely you've got to watch it again to get it. So could you help me a little bit with that one? Just what was the story? What was happening?
Also a pandemic film, but now we're like second half pandemic because at this point I was working on the People's fan films for the first year of the pandemic. Long From Home, that was the result of let's do something else. But then I got very creatively minded once I started rethinking about things. Once you invest in the studio, it's right there. If I could bring someone in, I could do whatever. We were finally going to make Convergence again, do it properly, and we needed another actor to fill in the role that Michelle was filling in for, that Jim left. So I said, I really can't be bringing an American because that was originally the idea, make it international because that's $1,000. If the pandemic happened again, we lose $1,000. We can't raise that quick enough, right? Very
Right.
expensive to make films. UK. So I approached my friend Gary O'Brien from the Holy Court and said, "Hey Gary, any chance you think you're Captain Alexa?" Because I really wanted to be a crossover film. That was the entire point of Convergence, crossover.
Right.
Would Alexa be interested in joining? He said maybe. I got in contact with her, and we got her signed up. She'd retired from acting. I've been her back into acting, or she's only doing my films. And we have a very wonderful working relationship. It's lovely. And I, being the idiot I am, said, I can't just bring her in and expect, if you tell people these two characters have this giant relationship and now it should pay off in this last scene because it's very important, that's only going to go so far. So I said, no, Alexa, I'm bringing you on for this big film and 3 prequels to set you up.
Which I'm sure she
three-
appreciated.
She did. She really did. So that's the first of 3 prequels. We have released the second. The third is all shot. The whole trilogy's done, filmed, and that was, again, we can only bring 1 actor on set because that was a pandemic-y time. COVID tests, 1 actor. How can you be creative? And that was that. And I thought, hey, Gary, I don't want to have your ship in the final film. Can I kill your ship? Which is bold to do for a fan filmmaker, to kill another fan filmmaker ship.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty stringent criterion. We really debate. It was a negotiation, harder than CBS actually. No.
Yeah.
But you don't expect that from a fan film to actually kill your ship. And if you've seen Holy Court, you love the ship. So that was a big deal, but that gives it a really big weight to it. Did she win at the end? She saved her crew. That's the fundamental goal, but she lost the ship. How are you meant to feel? Well, I saved my crew. What else can she think about? But that was an interesting film because I really did not want to have a scene, say 3 hours into a dangerous situation, where for some reason somebody tells her what's happening. It's like, I know, I've been living it for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So she had to be in the middle of it. So narratively, that was you're right in the start. So, like, how do you explain it without explaining it? And I didn't want to explain it. So if you watch the film, you see the scenario.
Yep.
And then it cuts back to the start of where she goes to the sun, and everything in this scene is what happens. Because they're saying, let's not get close because we might die because this, and this. It's fine, we'll be fine. That's what happens. Just explained after and yet before. So it's kind of an organic way of re-explaining the situation. So it's kind of like, what they didn't want to happen, happened, which is actually a setup. She's got some certain character traits that come in later to do with sons and to do with decision making, and her not listening to her officer was part of that, and it's all set up. But that was fun, and again, I always try and do what have we never seen before.
Doing something
That was
different.
a whole load of that. Yeah, and just nice to be in a Galaxy class. I mean, a Nebula bridge, but Galaxy class bridge. It was really, really nice just to live on that for a bit. Yeah, that was fun.
And I'm glad that you wanted to do something that was different, and that seems to be the overarching, and as we go through the rest of these, kind of that overarching theme is that you want to do things that haven't been done before and in different and interesting ways. That takes me to Duty Calls, where that's the first episode that we have Emma Thorne, actress that plays Laura Reed. And I've got to tell you, after I saw her and I saw that she was in more of this, she's a very good actress. I don't know if she's had any prior experience.
Not particularly. Just
Okay.
natural skill, just good casting, good
Just
directing,
really-
good script, and then getting. I have good actors. I'm very proud of them.
You
They're very
do.
compelling.
I really like the gentleman who plays Harriman.
Yeah.
He's really good. And
And then there's me.
then there's
The last 2 films.
you're great. You're
Wow.
great. Yes, you're good. Your dad is good. Emma. No, what was the name of the actor who played Harriman?
Marcus.
Marcus. Yep. Now in this film, I like the hazing, the old-fashioned hazing with the
Also quite controversial. You either love it or you hate it.
yes. Well, I think if anyone who has followed Strange New Worlds knows that happened with Uhura, and she
Also,
was.
love or hate it, controversial too. It's yeah. That's why I
Why do
couldn't complain at
people?
the time because I did it as well. Oops.
Why do people not? I mean, what's the problem with that? It's a thing.
It,
Everyone goes
because
through.
people say it's unstarfleet. They're better than that.
Oh, everyone's a freshman. Everybody gets hazed. It's always a
Well,
thing.
I thought of it as your best friend is going to make fun of you and play tricks on you because they're your best friend.
Yeah.
And they're not mean, but they can be funny. And what did she do? She told her the wrong uniform. It's silly. It's like half a day worth of bullshit, right? It's the least offensive thing possible, but it's a nice little twist.
It is. Think that what you did was, and you made a very good point, was that there are people that did not like it because, quote unquote, it's not Starfleet. And what I have to say to that is, why not? We're seeing
It's human.
it's human. Yes, we're seeing different parts of. We're seeing characters that are of the ranks that aren't the captains, the commanders, the lieutenant commanders, the ones that are very serious. They're the senior officers. Sure, of course, they probably wouldn't do things like that. Now, yes, Riker gave Picard
Yes, he
oh
did.
my God, what's the thing he took on vacation with him, and it was a sign of, yeah, I'm horny. I want to.
That thing.
The thing, it's going to kill me. I'm going to think of it later on tonight what it was called, but
We'll
you know,
remember it. It's fine.
yes, but you know what I'm talking about. There's still some of that happens, but you have to remember there are also younger officers that go through those little things. They do that. Hey, listen, folks, hazing is not going to go away. I can pretty much guarantee you it's probably been a thing for hundreds of years. We just don't know it, and it's going to end up being a thing. And it's not harmful. It's not something that is malicious. It's just a little fun. Tell them, hey, we wear this uniform on the ship. Ha ha, gotcha. And
Yeah,
that's it.
that's it.
No
Minute of
harm, no
embarrassment.
foul.
Which I don't know if you picked up on actually, because again, I try and everything's connected. Every character in the background of her transport were wearing the correct uniforms. Did you notice that?
Yes, yes.
And
That
you're
one I
meant to
did.
think, wait, is this the right time? Is this the right year for this?
Yeah,
Because it isn't. I mean, and you can still wear those, right? Those do still exist on lower end ships, but so it's not initially like, oh my god, but you're like, ah.
yeah.
I mean, it is foreshadowed a little bit. Isn't she cute in that? It, it
Yes.
was it was so fun to write because I've never seen, and you're right, we don't do high ranking officers except Nick and I guess Alexa, but for the most part we have lower ranking because most fan films like the captain, right? We like the lower ranking. But I've never seen a fan film on your first day from your house. Again, I've never seen that concept. How do you go from literally, bye mum,
Yeah.
to I'm on a starship? That to me was really interesting when I got
You
the
don't see
accent.
that.
Like, what does a Star Trek house look like? I had to do that. And there's an NX-01 in her NX-01 refit in her house because she's Malcolm Reed's great niece.
Great niece, maybe great niece somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Keeley, Nim plays Keeley, she loves her NX relative. Loves Reed. So when they meet, there's a complete.
Right.
You try and find those interesting character things. But that was really fun. And again, it wasn't pandemic, but it was still pandemic minded. That film of one actor, how can you do it creatively? We just finished the Beowulf model for another fan film, so I was like, yes, put that in. Never seen it in a fan film. I had the Stargazer. I really want to put that in. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was a simple film, but I think a lot of heart, and you really like her from it. I think it really sets her up well. As a character, and there's a lot of stuff to happen with that character. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. And it's very good character building to start off with her like that. And now I go to Legacy of the Enterprise B, which is
Yep.
a something in storytelling that I think is another good quality of what you do in these films is that you fill in these gaps. You have some stories that are parallel to what's happened on screen, told from a different perspective, and you get another continuation. So this is a character continuation with Captain Keller from the Icarus incident and Sam Harriman from
Cool.
Temporal Anomaly.
Yeah.
So when you're doing this, when you're writing these, and when you did that episode, is that the first thought that you have going into this? Is that if at all possible, I want to have some kind of character continuation with this, to have a thread that has these common actors, common characters to build off of a previous showing or previous episode.
Do you want to know the dark secret of Trek shorts?
Yes. Let's hear it. Lay it on me. That's what I'm here for. The good stuff.
I may have around 20 films shot, 25 films shot. I'm going to say maybe 12 are intentional.
Okay.
By that, I mean, I maybe had 12 ideas beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
The other 12 were, oh no, I've got to film a film here because of reasons. So a lot of these middle films are because of a reason. For example, and this happened many times, an actor got COVID. The other actor has already booked themselves in. Everything's ready for them to come down. You either lose some budget because hotels, etc., are non-refundable. You either lose some money to bring them down or lose more money to lose them and come back again. So I got them in and then wrote a new film that weekend, that week leading up to that shoot. That happened 3 times. That's 3 whole new films were invented because of that problem. With Emma, who's Reed, we filmed a trilogy with her, but then for another reason we had to film a prequel to use a day that, like, if you only had if it's 4 hours to get her to the studio, you don't want to film for an hour and say goodbye. It feels so mean, right?
Yeah.
So if anyone's coming for a half a day, I will write a new film to use the other half a day, so we all get a full use out of it. But obviously write a film that's smaller because that's fit into the time, more doable. And then I'm like, well, damn, where can I put a new chapter in that tells a new chapter, fills in a blank or adds a connection? And I'm able to throw those things in. So her prequel was, damn it, let's tell her first story. Let's make it season 1 uniform costume. No one does those before. It Is Born. Same thing with her Stargate film. Half a day, let's do this next piece, right? So half of them are just, well, I want to use this character. These are my limitations. How can I do something new, original, connect to the other stories, because I've got a chance to. And the big ones, those are the ones that were intentional, that were like, right, this one is going to delve into this for this character, or this big betrayal, or this big destruction point. The 3 Alexa films were 3 other planned films. So the first film was about showing she's a good captain for a crew. Second film was about showing she's a really good person and science officer, independent of her ship, and that she can be young and fresh, and, you know, she's not defined by her captaincy, because often you are. The third film, we break that down, some pretty negative stuff. So 3 very different tones leading to her in the big films as well. So this was actually very intentional, all the character beats, and knowing that I'd already filmed the doc where Marcus loses Enterprise D, to have the foreshadowing inside of it was really satisfying. You know, Alexa just lost her ship because of source separation, and Marcus is like, oh, I hope never to have a source separation. And we're like, in about 2 days, generations are going to happen. Oh, God. So it's really satisfying, right?
Right.
It's fun little things. Yeah. So half and half. But if I have to do a film,
Yep.
I always wanted to add to the tapestry, either very explicitly or small bonus thing, because everything should be standalone, but it's their lives. You know, when I brought Keely and Reed together, they both lived their full lives, so therefore they would interact in a unique way that things just come out. And then, yeah, it gets complicated, but hopefully it'll pay off in the end when you watch all the films in order. Because each person, it's like Game of Thrones. You have perspective characters; they have they're their full characters, and they come together and they come apart, and yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Absolutely,
Okay,
it does. Yes, and it was nice to see some more fleshing out of the Enterprise B and filling in for something that we don't see a lot. There's that whole the Lost era of Star Trek, that time period from the events of Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, which you've got 2393 until the launch of the Enterprise D, which the first season of that was in 2364. So you have this 70 years of storytelling, and the only thing that was there were points that were touched upon, like yesterday's Enterprise. There was a little bit in the Voyager episode where they found out that the Romulan they were talking to, that Romulan officer,
Yeah.
was actually in
true.
the 2340s something, 2350s. So you have a 70-year period that has not really been touched or covered. So it was very good to see some with the Enterprise B. The next one, Fallen Heroes. This
Do you have any
is
specific questions about that specifically? Because that was an unusual film with it. We had a runabout and we had some exterior locations. We had props. Was there any specific questions on that one?
yeah. Okay, let's.
Because each film is quite specific in its own right. I always do.
Yeah,
different
if
things, so-
I miss something that you wanted to throw in, of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, tell me some more about what you were putting into this and what you wanted to get out of just with the filming, with the locations, the authenticity that you wanted to add to the story.
So one of the things we did very early on was I was earning more during the pandemic because I was working 7 days a week. What else was I to do, right? So I had excess. I invested in the hardware and also in props. There's a famous prop maker who's having some trouble, so I just bought everything pretty much, and I got out of a giant financial hole. So I now have hero replicas of basically every phaser and tricorder. Horrifically expensive, but once you have them, to see them on screen, it feels tangible. They ain't Playmates phasers, they're hero accurate resin. There's a difference, right?
Yeah.
Same with our uniforms. I really, really push for high-end uniforms because you just don't question it. Seeing those two in some of the shots looks like you're just filming, an anamorphic Voyager episode, right? So, having those props and costumes adds a lot to it. I'd already bought the Star Trek 6 phaser for a later film with Sean Ferrick from Trek Culture, and I was like, oh my god, I can put that in as a prequel. Oh my god, because you try and incorporate things. So this is now set up for that, which is like 15 films away. But now we know how he found the phaser, and you'll really appreciate that when it comes to that film, because that is a big film for his character. And just, I'm a big fan of Harriman. I like Alan Ruck. I've met him, I've interviewed him. Really, really nice guy. I've got many feelings on Harriman, and I've always wanted to respect him, and obviously he's temper anomaly. You saw the film, he would appreciate getting that phaser. So that meant something to him. But also, Keller being a scientist, and just, I really want a science standalone. I don't do a lot of science standalones for various reasons, and that was just a fun one. And I wanted to be the first fan film to be in a runabout. Again, simple things, but meaningful. And I also set up Hunter is doing a talk there. Everything's a clever payoff and setup. Everything's fun, but it's that was nice to film. Although we only had, I think, 45 minutes to film all the live action, and there was a very loud weed whacker. So half of it is dubbed with other takes. And I really worked to dub that, and you really can't tell for most of it. Some of it you can, but I'm pretty proud of that.
Who's the jerk operating the weed whacker? And could you tell him, would you turn that damn thing off?
We're in space, damn it.
Yeah.
It's so that was a miracle because we were really rushing. Really, really rushing. I mean, I think I had one take on almost everything. But there's a certain freneticness because we just shot. I kind of knew what I wanted to do, so we just kind of shot it. And that was a fun one. And I'll tell you a brief anecdote. The end moment, in the original edit, I lingered for about 3 more seconds before the cut to the ship. And the look the two actors gave each other was sexual. But it wasn't. But because it's that nice closing moment, your brain adds on. Several people said, "Is there something going on there?" And everyone's platonic in Trek shorts because they're professional. Everyone's just people, right?
Right.
So I was like, no. There's actually storylines where they get married. That's a thing.
Yeah.
So I had to re-edit the ending. Alexa was coming to because two of those two bits of Alexa are shot 6 months apart for various reasons. See if you can pick out why and which. I think we released it a week after we reshot because I was like, just get the footage in and get it out.
Yeah.
So I added the last bit, a new voiceover at the end, just to take out the romance. It's not romantic.
Leave the romance. There's got to be a little bit of romance.
But it was weird. It was really just his eyes because they get on really well. So nice chemistry, and just there's something about the passion and the smile. It's just like, oh no, Marcus, don't do that. And no one vibed on your day, right? But it's just, damn you, Marcus.
I'm going back to rewatch that one.
Yeah, it's like 2 more seconds. Yeah.
You cost me another half day of filming and editing. Would you like to move on to Fallen Heroes?
Ah, yeah, that
This
one.
this is the first of what I'm going to say my favorite ones of any of the films that you had me look at, because I really like the whole it's documentary style, which you don't see a whole lot. And the first time we had seen any kind of documentary style in a fan film was with Axanar. And I think that that was really different. You don't, and we've seen a little bit of touches in that. I know in DS9 had, I think, maybe one or two that were sort of a, I'm doing this interview talking to you about it. Trials and Tribulations really was kind of one when Cisco was being talked to
Yeah.
from the guys with Temple Affairs. But you did this. It was an interview of like alternate parallel version of events that happened during Star Trek Generations, and I liked how we got Harriman again, which was, and I did have his name here, Marcus Churchill. Okay, so I did write it down, and seeing the view of these events of that movie again through the eyes of a lower deck character. This idea to do it like a documentary, was that influence from the style from Axanar, or did you just kind of experiment with it? Say, what would a film look like if it was a documentary style Star Trek film?
Well, I worked on the Romulan War before Axanar came out, and he wrote that years earlier. He was actually the first to do it. He just didn't first to release, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have watched Romulan War Part One, it is exceptional. The editing's phenomenal. I have like 145 space effect shots in it, and Part Two is even bigger. Just, I wouldn't make it, but I'm making it for him. No, because we did the first doc we did was called Battle of Velsac 2, and that was a really sad story because Nim, Nick had flown in from Scotland, which cost about £500, so $700 to get him in. She had to cancel while he was on the flight.
No.
And that was a full weekend shoot. And if you include hotels, that's about 1,000 I'd spent. Cancel.
Wow.
Huh. And he can't shoot really anything. I mean, we shot some stuff, like always close. Like, it was a weird. We shot some stuff, right? But we had a full other half day. And it's like, so I told him when he walked in the door, like, Nick,
Guess what?
guess what? And he was, because that means you've got to get him back again. So it was another. Like, it's not just, oh no, cancelled. It's like, I've got to pay for him to come again. So that's another $500, $700 just because, you know what I mean? Like, these
You're
things
going to
escalate
do
budget.
something with him while he's there.
Yeah, like, no one quite appreciates how much, like, personal loss that is when that happens. It's like just throwing money, because you can't then cancel the film. You've just spent it again. And that's happened multiple times. So that film I wrote, the Belsac 2, we had dinner, we got tipsy, we discussed the basic storyline, and I wrote it between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., and we shot the next day at 12 at lunchtime. It went swimmingly. So I knew I could do it. That concept of writing a doc. Once I had the structure, then I really wanted to tell the story Enterprise D. That was because Generations is an okay movie, but it's got loads of little holes, and I thought this would be an amazing narrative. I'd already said he was on the Enterprise D, just happenstance from other stories.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the thing, and it'd be meaningful to us as the audience. So I wrote it. It was amazing to write. I closed out lots of plot holes, and I started before the film. I ended after the film, and I also recreated, because none of the shots from the movie, so I recreated almost every single space shot from the film. I think I created about 50 shots recreated, and then I made ones in between because if the narrator's speaking, you got something over it.
Yeah.
So I had, I think, about 75 shots. I mean, it was an elaborate thing to do, obviously. Hopefully it feels big. But I just really wanted to tell the story from his perspective, do some character development, and it's gone viral. I mean, for fan film, and people have really responded to it more than I thought. And I had no idea the D was coming back for Picard. That was just happenstance, of course. And now it's even more meaningful, because I've helped to bridge that gap a bit between Generations and Picard a little bit.
What did you use for doing these shots? I'm going to talk about the technical part a little bit, which of course you see in all of these. The the animation, the modeling. That's something that I've wanted to kind of learn more about or know more about. But where do you even start with? Okay, I've got this shot from Generations that I want to redo. I can't use the original. How do you accomplish that?
Let's do a movie budget in my office, which is what I was ostensibly doing, right? Movie shots.
Are you
It's
using
all about
models? CGI models.
how else could you do it?
Yeah.
Even they did CGI models. If you look carefully, you can see that in Generations they're easy to spot because they're worse. Anytime the Enterprise moves more than a little bit, it's the CG model, but it's ILM, so it's very good.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've been doing Lightwave, which is the CG software, since 2012 because I did some test stuff for the first film, and it's one of those things I just kept getting better and better and better and better and better, and then here I am today. But what's important, it is an antiquated software as softwares go. You've got Blender, which is very good now. Maya is industry standard. Max is okay. Redshift, etc. These things are industry leading, and I'm using a 2015 software every day, right? Because it is the last iteration of the same 3D engine that was used to make Star Trek Voyager, Star Trek Enterprise, Star Trek DS9, Babylon 5, Battlestar Galactica, Stargate SG-1, Atlantis and Universe, Space Above and Beyond, Firefly. This was the one software that did all of the Andromeda, all those TV shows. That is the golden age of sci-fi television. All was made in Lightwave. And I've trained myself over ostensibly a decade to replicate the look of 90s Trek, which is replicating the look of 80s Trek, because obviously CG was trying to replicate the models, so it's all one vibe. So I don't want to make Discovery lighting, I don't want to make Picard lighting, I want to make canon theme lighting for what we saw from TNG up until Enterprise. So it's dated, but it's faithful. And so practice...
That's how you were able to keep the look from that era. You're literally using the same software engine that was done at that time.
Lots of practice.
And that's what you're talking about.
Lots and lots of practice.
Yeah, lots of practice. And some of these films, you keep getting better. It's like, okay, I can keep refining this.
Yep.
And do you find yourself kind of in that swirling rabbit hole of, well, when am I ever going to release this? Because I keep getting better. I keep learning new things, and I keep wanting to redo something.
No, actually.
Okay.
That's called growth.
Uh-huh.
Temporal Anomaly was about I kept making genuine strides. As my Trek Yards career went further, I met more people that worked on real Star Trek and learned from them. So I kept gaining. I consider them. I was an apprentice to some people, not really, but I had sessions of learning from them, right? Which was very useful. No, nowadays I've reached, I think, a very nice bar. I'm always in theory improving, but I've reached a lovely bar. I have so many films I'm doing, both for me, for people, for work, that I know when it's ready to go. And if you ever bring me on to do a film for you, as in just conceptually the audience, right? I will only submit a shot to you for approval if I would be happy in my own film to include it. Because my bar is already, as a production minded, that high.
Yeah.
If I'm ready to go, so often I get that good to go in one pass because I'm happy with it, etc. So no, I can, if I'm really lucky, I can do, and this is me being a decade of practice, right? I can do 5, 6, 7 shots on a weekend. And that's full time. That's like burning through,
It's pretty good.
it's pretty good. I shouldn't do it because you don't sleep as much and you work really hard. But
Sleep is overrated.
People tell me that. I live it all the time. No, it's that one took a long time. That was a lot of shots, and they were because, like I say, recreating is a whole different thing. If you say build 10 Connie flybys, which I've done, I can do it in a weekend, as in to prevers. But recreating, especially Generations, is a model with 3D as well. It's a combination, and so I had to pretend the ship was actually a model that was 6 foot sometimes, because you're not moving around a ship, you're moving around a model. It's a whole thing. But I like that film a lot because it many people have messaged me saying it resonated with them. They felt something in that film. They got to, because you'd think reliving a movie we've all seen, diminishing returns. But I've been told, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, that you feel it in a whole new way and you live it again in a fresh way. I don't know if you had that experience when watching it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What I'd like to do is, unless there's something very unique or story-wise in regards to the film's One Small Step and the Tholian Gambit, I'm really anxious to get to the Battle of Velsac 2. But I will stop briefly and tell you, in One Small Step, an alternate view of the introduction of the Defiant. Again, I like seeing those different angles of this is what it was on screen, but we're telling this story that happened as well, another parallel story. And in the Tholian Gambit, it's good to see the Tholians again. You don't really get them a whole lot. There's not a lot of there's not a lot that's fleshed out with the Tholians. We see them rarely. It's easy to mention them. That's happened in in canon on Star Trek, but I'm glad that you, again, like the Kabali in the episode "A Long Way from Home," you're not afraid to take a lesser used adversary and give them some screen time.
Yeah, I mean, those two films are actually quite specific in that one was an accident, and one was a delayed by 6 months. Meant the last film Nim could learn all the lines for.
Okay.
It's been a hard time after that. And it's amazing because One Small Step is her first film. And going from Long Way From Home, where she's a lieutenant, she's in her mid-30s, going back to 21, the amount of comments saying she's obnoxious, it's like, yeah.
Really?
Because she's 21.
Yeah.
That's sort of the point. Because there's a contrast point between, if you watch them back-to-back, those two films, she grows.
Right.
Because she's 15 years older. And that's really fun to see. She's this cocky fly girl who is very talented, although fourth in her class, and gets herself killed. But the potential's there, right? Like it's an interesting piece in that regard, and also foreshadows the holodeck love, etc., all that fun stuff. But to see her, and she doesn't like the film fully because she thinks she's too much. It's like, that's really on purpose, because you're being this young person. Because we see her when we did the Tholian, that was because Season 2 came out. And it was really, the first episode was really good. Went downhill very quickly, but we made them during those two films. We happened to bring her in for another shoot. We said, let's make the world's first Picard Season 2 film.
Yeah.
And we did. But of course, Nimran has to be 50 for that.
Okay.
So I had to CGI age her to 50. So I released her 21 years old and 50 back to back, which I didn't mean to do. So that was my first time doing CGI aging.
Yeah.
And writing her old. And she loved being Captain Keeley because you just don't act the same. And then if you watch those three side by side, 20, 30, 50, you feel the development. Same lady, really great performance, and just shows it's my script, so making her be the young and the old. And that was a fun. Although it kind of, in a sense, it spoils her end because, like, well, now you know she's a captain on the horizon, etc. But that's okay. You can tell we're jumping throughout the timeline. Yeah. It's a very non-linear sort of storytelling. I know where it's going. And there is sort of a present, but it's non-linear, so you can enjoy the ride even though you know she's a captain. She obviously lives, but it's you know. And my favourite comment ever for that film was, you ready for this?
Yep.
Not to be rude, is Nim okay? She looks really bad in this.
Excuse me?
She's 50. She's been because they didn't realize she was 80. They thought she was retired or something, or like no makeup. No, she's CGI 50, right? Like that, but that's great. Like we fooled them completely.
Yeah.
That was a really fun comment. And also, she's wearing a blue uniform. I CGI'd her body red and her face old.
That had to be tough because
so tough.
I did an interview with Nick Cook.
Yes.
Who's Captain Hunter from Starship Intrepid, and we were talking about the episode where he had to do the digital aging and de-aging. So to me,
as in I had to do it for him. Yes.
Yes. Okay. You did that.
I'm the guy doing that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm the sort of, yeah. That was our test bit. That was never planned, but I learned how to do it as Nick could look younger here. Can I do it? I can, and now I'll use it as much as I can, or at least conceptually.
Wow.
So those two films are important because that's a great Keeley journey, and it shows the contrast of a good actress. So you can play 21 and 51, and yet being 30. Just really fun.
Now, okay, so you that was another thing that you basically taught yourself and practiced to do with the aging, de-aging. Again, I thought that it looked very realistic. It was more than just aging someone. I think is probably the easiest. All you do, you get put them some gray hair on them, stencil some wrinkles and so forth. Look at all
Yeah.
the actors that were aged in prior episodes to how they
Yeah.
look now. I don't think anyone's gotten it right.
No.
It's one of those things where you have to guess. You really have to guess. Okay, well, what would they look like in 20 years? And I don't think that anyone has just happened to get it right. But now with the CGI, at least you can be closer to it.
And her mum loved that film because she teased her saying, "That's what you can look like, Nimran." She's like, "It's not. It's not. I look better than that." Which is just lovely. And no, that software's. I mean, it's a very complicated multi-step process. That's the creative thinking of it. It does actually change your face shape. It doesn't just add wrinkles. It just changes. There's more weight there. There's different neck. It changes your shape.
Right.
Same with the de-aging. My next film coming out at the end of this month. It's another one I had to film for a setup for a payoff later. And I'm two different ages talking to each other at the same time, and neither
Ooh.
how I look. So that's been fun.
That does
We'll see
sound like
if that
fun.
works. Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see. I
Yeah.
definitely would want to see that one.
Can I act very old and very young? Maybe. We'll find out. Difficult. Difficult's the word.
Yeah. Can we talk about Battle of Velsec 2?
Absolutely.
This was another documentary style storytelling. What I really liked about this was that it talked about another event during the Dominion War.
Which we never get in fan films. Ever.
You don't. And I found myself recently just happened to be watching. I just finished a binging of Band of Brothers, and there's been a lot of movies and shows and series based on World War II, and I don't think that you can ever truly grasp just what that was, the scope and scale of that war, and that things could go very badly. We're not talking about picking on Iraqis and messing around in Afghanistan or just no other war has compared to that. And I think the reason you see so much done on it is because of that. It seems like it's just an unending source of storytelling. And with the Dominion War, that was something that was very unique for Star Trek at the time, is a war that didn't happen during the summer hiatus of the series, where you can have it all happen off screen. Like the Klingon Civil War went on for, 2 or 3 months off screen? Okay, that's great. That's easy. Let's maintain our formula of each week is a episode of the week. We don't have a continuation kind of thing. And with the Dominion War, you tap into some of that. This was a very big event for the Federation. Now, I'm not trying to say I am making a direct comparison of the Dominion War to World War II. However, this was something that was a very much things are not going well for the Federation. It could have gone south at any point.
They were losing throughout.
Yes, they were losing. They were
points.
on their heels pretty much the whole time. And the reason you get so many movies and films on what would have happened in an alternate reality if the Germans had won World War II, I think you get so much of that because it was very plausible. I mean, it was not outside of the realm of possibility. And I think that's why. Are you familiar with the movie Red Dawn? It's Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen.
Not enough to remember.
Yeah, you were real young.
Yeah.
I just turned 46 in September, and you're 30 now. It makes me feel old. Thank you. But basically, the movie, it's in the 80s, and it was about a invasion of the U.S. by
Mm.
Russia and Cuba forces, and it was very plausible then because that was during the Cold War,
Mm.
and you would think that in Russia was, I mean, they were large power. That was realistic, at least somewhat. That this is plausible, but then you had the remake. Of course, Hollywood has to remake everything, and the remake of Red Dawn in the 2000s, the antagonist was North Korea, which was the closest thing you could even possibly find any kind of global antagonist for the U.S. And it didn't work because North Korea is really no challenge to us. We're not afraid of them or really any other country like we were of Germany during World War II and Japan and Russia during the Cold War. So you have this with the Dominion War, where it is a very plausible what could happen. There's so much that has happened because the Dominion could have won. They were very close to that, and we got to see a war story type documentary. And again, I have to applaud you for that thought. And what took you to doing kind of a wartime type documentary, including the Dominion War?
Well, which did you prefer, that or the Enterprise D one? Do you think?
Oh, okay. So I would have to say, when it comes to that documentary style of the parallel writing, I want to say the Battle of Velsac 2.
Mm.
And the reason being, and I'll tell you why, is because you know the outcome of what was going to happen to the Enterprise D in the events of Generations. And in a way, in an abstract way, you do know that, yes, the Federation defeated the Dominion.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But your scope
I could
was
have killed Hunter. You never know.
sure, yes,
Yeah.
you could have, there were some heads that you could have put on the chopping block, but it was different. You knew the outcome of the war as a whole. Like you knew the outcome of what happened with the Enterprise D, but there was a story that could be told that had its own outcome that had nothing to do with the just the overall feel of, yes, there's this war, yes, the Federation won. There's a lot that happened inside that you didn't know. There were many battles that could have been won and lost, and that's where you could get extra story from it.
Well, I've got two other docs. I hope you watch them and enjoy because I've done four apparently, which is crazy. Yeah, like I said, this was theorized over dinner, and I wrote it that evening, 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. We filmed it the next day. It
Hmm.
is a true lightning in a bottle film.
Yeah,
It's really good. It has no right to be that good. You know
it
what I
is
mean?
good.
For maybe 3 hours production time, maybe 4 hours production time, and it's that good. I've got a lot of practice in script writing, fair enough, but it's a really good script for 3 hours. And Nick, I pushed him really hard as a director.
Hmm.
I think got some. I mean, he won Best Actor at a recent Fathom Award of the year, and I
Yeah,
think I'm so happy he did because he's
very
really
well
good in it.
deserved.
He has such nuance to it, and documentaries are great because unlike the other films, Icarus, whatever, yes, they can act great in them. You're getting to experience 10, 15, 20 minutes with a character being. You learn more about Reed and her doc. Oh god, I've made five docs. Oh god. You learn more. I forgot about that one. You learn more about the character in that short time than
Yeah.
you do in a narrative film. Now, yes, some people dislike it because it's a doc. Other people love it because you see far more story in a doc format than you do in a normal narrative. Way more and way more acting. And I love the one I did. I could be the character. I did like 8 minute long takes. I'm just living as this person for like as I've never done before. So it was really fascinating. So that just was a really good thing. And Nick obviously understands the context of all these things, and we worked hard on that. But it was no one does Dominion War. That was the first thing we wanted to
Hmm.
do. He has time travel things in his future past. I mean, we've already hinted that in several films. So to have him experience one and do one was important to the grander narrative, and to show his I think it's his first canonically his first time in the center seat, because he's not captain yet, he's a commander, so that was fun to say before his first film, which is always fun to be able to do. And to kind of bring the Intrepid class into the war and give some context. We didn't get that except the Bellerothon, and that was at Romulus. That was it. So to see them fight the Dominion was fun, and to hear the voiceover and see those, that 3 or 4 shots they did of it fighting Dominion ships was fun, because it's a powerful thing. And a time skip, what a weird idea. I think I know that was, I know I invented that, but it was a me and Nick, like how powerful it was going to be and how radical. I just love that idea of he did it, waited, saw himself leave, and then acted, because otherwise you're going to change the timeline.
I like the time skip idea.
Because it's a, I hate god powers because they take away narrative strength, but that's such unuseful ability. I've told you that's possible. Utilize that somehow. How?
Yeah.
It's totally but it links to how a sun works. So there's the logic that you can tell, but it's also hugely limited. And just to kind of go dark with it, honestly, to see it, Nick. He's normally quite a fun character. He tries to be, and to see him actually live in the middle of that. And in retrospect, docs let you play 2 perspectives when you show in context flashbacks, which I do in most of them, but sometimes I don't. We have to play, like there's one film that we've shot. It's Marcus doc, and it's really interesting because it's another prequel, but it takes place during the Cardassian Federation War, but he's being interviewed when we're at peace.
Mm-hmm.
So he's talking about atrocities that they're doing, but they're now allies. So he's been very, very diplomatic with still the resentment in his eyes. And the narrator is being like, yes, they killed 6.3 million Bajorans.
Yeah.
But now, and like to hear the cognitive distance between the 2 versions is really interesting.
Right.
Because him in the past, who's the flashback, is like, and then that was really fun to have that full political, and to have those love, like, don't worry, they'll never be villains again. The Dominion, they're no threat. Like, it's lovely to have those sort of. There's a film that I'm with Nim where I'm so goddamn naive about the Dominion. I love it. I'm like, it's fine, Keely. They'll never be that big a problem.
Unless they are.
Unless they are. I really sincere it. And it's really quite nice to see. But as the audience, it's total bullshit. It doesn't make sense. But in the time it does. So Velsac was a pure lightning in a bottle film. One of my favourites. It just worked.
Was this side of morality? I know I have here. There was a Dominion War cameo. Was this tied in with
USS Dominion?
It was. I should have put USS Dominion instead of just Dominion.
Yes.
It was one of those things where it's like, okay, I know what I'm talking about, and I'll remember in a couple hours. Well, no. So yes, the Dreadnought Dominion was. We're talking about the same Dreadnought Dominion from the fan production from No Budget Studios, Dreadnought Dominion, same group. So that was an interesting crossover that you did with that one, and another crossover that I love now. So what do you
think of that? What do you think of that film? Because that was my first TOS one, which I hadn't done yet.
Yes, I'm glad that you didn't try to destroy yet another fan film group's ship, because you'd be known as the Widowmaker. Like, if you get involved with Sam and crossovers, you're gonna lose your ass on this one.
Nick, I kill your ship. That is true. I like that.
That's great. Yeah. People start getting nervous. Like, no, I don't want you to destroy our ship. And
I mean, I'm the one doing the CG. I can do whatever I want.
I do whatever the hell I want. Yeah. For your first TOS outing, I think that it was, again, extraordinary that you're able to get this intertwining with other fan film groups to kind of have that mesh, have that meld where you're showing a Marvel Cinematic Universe style filmmaking, because you have these crossovers. You're taking different pieces from the different productions and having a way to tie them into a story that makes sense. And that's the thing, is it's not just a cameo of a ship just to say you did it.
Yep.
It actually makes sense in the story.
And not to disparage those that can only achieve, please film on your phone, here you are on a view screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I avoid it because you know what it is. Yes, it meant I only did voiceover for them, but I did loads of CG shots of the bridge, so I filled that gap. But it wasn't just, you know, you kind of visualize them on the bridge. You know, I try and avoid that because I want it to be as real as possible, as full on as possible, or unless there's a reason for it to be narrowed. And like they literally call you, then of course it could be that crossover. No, that TOS was fun. You got to write it differently. I don't know. Could you tell it was written differently? I tried to give it a more vintage feel in the dialogue. It's hard to express, but I try to make it feel more 60s.
Yeah. How did you prepare your father for? You're going to have a lot of lines, a lot of screen time. So, did you have a teleprompter there for him? Was the angle just right where he could, you know, read the stuff?
That is how you do a doc. You autocue everything. Yeah, you can't. I mean, they can't learn these lines. I mean, like I said, Nick hadn't read the script until he read it on the autocue that morning, right? Because there's no time.
Right.
And you can't ask Marcus to learn 37 pages of dialogue because it's mostly them. It's like learn a 2-page monologue, right? That's what these are. These are just free flow conversation.
Yep.
So this was post-pandemic. Yay. And I'd made a few films, and Dad was a little bit, just a little bit.
Did he have the acting bug yet?
Vaguely, yeah. I mean, he's things and bobs. He's a historian reenactor, so he's done acting in the sense of portraying a character without lines necessarily, but like being on a location or on a documentary. Look, be a Roman for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Not a problem. But dialogue is different, as is me. It's a different thing. And I remember it was Christmas Day. I said, Dad, this is your present. And I gave him the script. We read the script cold. Then and there, I'd written just for that day, and he was very happy. Because it isn't just, here's a film, it's here's a film plus the month to make it.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a present. And it took a month to make. And it was way bigger than I thought it was going to have to be, because I had to do all these CG things that would just... Every film's different. Every film I do different things I've never done before, or I push. You know, that film, I had 6 alternate hymns, which most fan filmmakers would put a toupee on him, or do lipstick. I had 6 CGI faces that were all different. That took a lot of time to do, you know.
So you didn't make him actually shave the beard and mustache? That was CGI?
Yep.
Holy shit.
He looked identical, and I made all 6 different.
That was good. I thought it was one of those cases of, okay, let's make damn sure that we are good with the look here, because once you bring out the razor, you're a good few weeks, a month away from being able to reshoot anything with facial hair. But I'll be damned, that was CGI. Okay.
Yep, all 100%. That's why I got him with a goatee and a beard and a shaved face, and all in different environments. And that Roman city kit cost me $99 to buy as well. I mean, you know, fan films are expensive. They really are, and I'm in huge financial debt.
Wow.
But the next time you go support us, because I'm investing so you guys get good films. Anyway, that's a longer story. But no, it was his Christmas present, and I'm really proud of him. You know, he took a lot of direction. He's not an actor, and he overacts because he's trying to act.
Yes.
But what is an actor? They're just trying to give a real, genuine performance. So often it was a take where he was just being, and he thought, "I'm just talking." No, you're being.
Yeah.
Right? And it, you know, it took longer than with Nick. But the editing is where you make it come together. And he did, in the edit, put them together, he's great. I think he does a good job. And he's loving it, because I never thought I was going to do an Enterprise story, because all of TOS fan films avoided the Enterprise for obvious reasons. But Dad wanted to be on the Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And I put goddamn Kirk in it. And Spock. And I pushed, because, you know. And that was another thing I pushed. You know, having these CG digi-doubles and creatively using them. So, you know, you see Spock for 10 frames and he beams out. But you know it's Spock.
Yep, I rewound that part. I said, oh, wait a minute. Did I just see? Okay, let me let me skip back a little bit. All right, I did. I wasn't just
out of focus briefing room. That's clearly Uhura. It's obviously a CG body.
Yep.
But that clever usage of technique lets you brace it. Okay. It's that bit of extra. Although the Kirk was a multi thing to make it a little more real, because that was a proper like, oh god damn it. But that was
Yeah.
satisfying to put Kirk on the view screen. That was a whole thing. Like 7 layers of effects
Yeah.
to make that work. And that's my first film with my girlfriend doing voiceover as Louise Nilsson, which took 2 years to convince her to do. She doesn't really like doing it, but she's now important to a grander narrative because that was her one and only. And nice with my dad. That's lovely in the family, right?
Yes, there had to be
But
great bonding with you and your dad to be able to do that, to be able to share something like that
Yeah,
together.
exactly. Like that's their film, right? And they're so it's 100 years before any other film. It's really their own little thing. But I needed her back for a second doc. I said, "Can you do an old voice?" She's like, "Nope." Like, right. You'll be 140. Don't care. It's like, right, okay. So, what came out literally that week? Strange New World season 2 episode 1. And what do they introduce? A brand new alien race that can live for a very long time.
Yes.
Yes!
Yes, I got it.
Lanthanites. Excellent.
That's
I
right.
wrote that in the next script.
Solved all your
Yes.
problems right there.
Literally. It was very useful. Although I was literally thinking, do I release this before the end of the season? Because what if they reveal them as being like Nazis as well? Because it's a bit of a risk to say my girlfriend's this special race. But what's their back? You know what I mean? What's their back? Luckily, they're all. I think we know they're fine, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They're fine. So she can live. That's why she's in a dock, the Packler dock, even though it's 120 whatever years apart, and she sounds the same. And that's really important to a future story, as you can imagine. The idea of living for a long time. That's really, really important for a story, which is great. That was fun. That was a very gentle film to make. And TOS sets are really hard to light because they're not lit by real light. So lighting Voyager, it lights itself. That's the point of the set. TOS is all big studio lights that are running so hot that the cameras are so ill advanced, they need light to process images. So everything is really like, if you took a modern camera back to the 60s, you would be like, what the hell does this look like?
Yeah.
It's not built for this stuff. So to recreate it is very, very difficult. A lot of R&D. I avoided it for at least 2 years until my skills improved.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy with especially the briefing room. I think I lit that really well, considering.
And I think
Yeah,
that's something that we don't realize is that with the change in the camera technology, the lighting is also something that has to adjust. And that's why in the newer Trek, like Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, I don't think I'm missing anything. That's why there are no lights turned on, and it seems like everything's dark. It's because you can't have a lot of lighting with these cameras. These cameras aren't built and designed that way. And that was, I remember reading that was a challenge of the Enterprise D in Picard season 3 was that you couldn't have the kind of lighting that that ship had in the 90s, yet you also can't have it follow the lighting aesthetic that we've been seeing in these newer shows where it's everything's darker, there's no lights on, and they had to really find that balance to be able to do, which I think they pulled off fabulously. And
Well, if you look in the first part, it's lit like TNG. Second part, there's every single close up on every actor. There's shadows that appear from nowhere. So they custom light every angle, despite there not being any crushers, especially. Like, why is there now shadowing all across the back half of the bridge? Because we want dramatic lighting, even though that doesn't make any sense because they kind of did both. I mean, you can make a TNG show now with the right lighting, but they wanted their own look, right? That's the point. They didn't want to compromise their look.
right,
You could do it, right? You really could.
yeah, you could. You didn't
Because
want
cameras
the
are really flexible.
you didn't want
like,
the look
for
to
example-
stand out so badly.
For example, they painted the walls of the Enterprise D a colour, but if you look at the TNG show, what ends up on screen is a different colour to what Picard made. So they got the colour wrong. Now, they didn't get the paint wrong, but they got the colour grade wrong because they did they did it authentically to the set, but the set is not what we all saw for 7 years. So, but they could have changed it in post by changing literally the colour value. I did it as part of our review process. It took me about 16 seconds, right? They chose to not make an accurate version of the set on screen to therefore get accurate on set. So now it's a weird pinky colour because it was at the time, but these are all
Right.
choices with modern cameras, 6K and also full RAW. I mean, you've a lot of flexibility. Yeah. Like, they could have made Picard brighter in post.
Yeah.
Even though it was dark, the information was that they could have raised it by 30% and not any discernible colour loss. But it's like when they did, Joss Whedon came in for Justice League, he made the shots brighter. But the costumes were designed to be in lower light, so all the detailing looked worse because it was meant to be hid by the darkness.
Yeah.
And so he just raised because you can do the exposure higher. It's like, oh, that looks like fake leather. It's like, yeah, it's meant to be in shadow.
It was not meant to be this bright.
No.
I want to talk about Flight of the Protostar, which, if you're a Prodigy fan, you get, if you're a Prodigy fan and Lower Decks fan, so we get some of those ships thrown in there as Easter eggs. You're going to have to help me a little bit with Flight of the Protostar. It takes place, it's a shakedown cruise of the Protostar before the events of Prodigy. Is that right, or am I?
No, this is the film and not the doc.
This is the film.
It's the film.
Yes.
Is that what happens?
Well, you know. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Packlet Resurgence, the last
Okay,
one.
which one?
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, Flight of the Protostar was just more cameo ships with
Yes.
between
The other one's
Prodigy and
very
Lower
low
Decks.
density.
Okay.
Which one do you want to talk about?
Okay. Yeah, let's do. I'm going to do this in order of what I watched. So
Okay.
we've got Flight of the Protostar and Broken Reality, the next two that I want to talk about. So that was the note I had on Flight of the Protostar. It was nice to see what would look like a live action version of these ships, and again, very faithful representation of taking from animated to. I was about to say real life. I don't know if that's the right words
Live
to
action,
use, but
right.
live action.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even though it's still fully animated, it's weird that.
It is. It's still it's CGI animated, but it's not. It doesn't look like from the animated show.
Nope.
Was this a? Did you see this as a challenge? That okay, Strange New Worlds did it. They did a crossover of what animated looked like in live
I don't
action.
even know the challenge of this film. I mean, if you've read the blurb, this film was insane. I made Flight of the Protostar in 6 days.
Really? Okay.
From script to release in 6 days.
6 days? How do you do that? That's amazing.
So this one's kind of a sad story in a sense. It's luckily nicer now because of what's happened to Prodigy. So I know the Prodigy team from my work on Trek Yards. Aaron Waltke especially, who's the lead writer of season 2 and executive producer for both seasons. And I know them. I've talked to them offline, informally, and I like the team a lot at Prodigy, especially their work ethic, their vibe. I really want to see more from them. You know, we were hoping 7, 8, 9 seasons. You know, they were a really good team. Bit silly, bit serious, great as your cannon. We were go guys. Mm-hmm. The show gets cancelled.
Yeah.
And I was really angry. I knew a little bit about season 2 for reasons, and I'm just really angry about that. And we do a live on Trek Yards that night, and we have to vent for the first 10 minutes because it's just too much, and we hold it back and we whatever. And I emailed the show, the Aaron Waltke, the producer, that night, and I say, if we talk tonight, you just got cancelled. Can we talk tonight?
Yeah.
And I don't ask unless there's a reason, right? That's the relationship I have with him. Like, this is a real request. It's not just a let's hang out, right? And I get him on the call 3 hours after Prodigy's cancelled, which is by itself insane, right? And I say to him, I'm pissed. Oh, have you ever seen Key and Peele?
I've seen Key and Peele.
You know the skit where they say, well, I'm pissed. Royally pissed.
No, not that one.
Oh, it's all Republicans are the same. They say, I'm pissed, royally pissed. We're the same thing. I love that skit because all they say for the entire skit, but that's how I felt. I'm pissed, royally pissed.
Yeah.
That's the joke. Sorry, I just love the joke. Love Key and Peele, phenomenal. So I say to him, I am going to make a fan film to get attention to Prodigy.
Mm-hmm.
And I've already started writing this tonight. Can I tell you about the film? So I tell him the film. He loves it. He makes a small note, whatever. And that night I start doing CGI for it. And there's like 30 shots. I email Nick and Em. I say, guys, this needs to happen. Can you both film on Sunday? Please. They both made time. We filmed Nick. And he just because we both been behind the scenes making a project uniform for our own films. I was doing it. I made him do it. So we already had that first live action project uniform, which I spent $1,000 doing them for the cast, custom made, fully custom tailored. Ugh. But they look amazing. I'm really proud of them. And because I knew we were doing stuff, I'd already been building the Dauntless Bridge. I already done the Pro Star. Like I had a load of stuff that was sort of half to 3/4 built. So because you can't just build a bridge in a week.
Right.
Or in a month. But if you've got it built, you can sort of finish it, which I obviously had to do. Although if you look past the scene, there's a lot less finished.
Yeah.
So I knew exactly what I could do. Not how long it would take, but I knew what I had in the buffer. And it was a lot. I wrote the film. I got the actors signed up. I started producing it. I started making it. Every single day, I went to bed at dawn. So I
went to bed at dawn.
I worked every day until 6 a.m. I saw the sun every single day. I went to sleep because I had to have stuff rendering because there were constant render. One shot took like 27 hours to render, right? I only had 6 days. Every day dawn, woke up. I didn't do any paid work. I was entirely screw you bank account week.
Yeah.
I didn't do any other. I only ate. I made this film. So it was a nightmare, honestly. It was creatively, wow, I'm doing this. And afterwards, I crashed so hard because I was just like, this is a ridiculous level of attention.
I bet.
And work. But I got it out in 6 days. I got the Hagelins to see it. They shared it. It went viral, 32,000 views. It genuinely was a little blip of wow. And the reaction, was amazing because it's like, yes, it's live action. And it's shockingly ambitious for 6 days, of course. There's loads of CG in it, loads of cool things. The cliffhanger's really fun. My first, I've got to be in it. I've got to film it on Monday, right? Let's do it. I do an okay job. I've got better. I'm very happy I've got better because I see some problems with that. But I had half an hour to it was and it's amazing. I remember some of those takes. I'm like, ah, because I'm frustrated, but I'm zoning back in. That's what I do as an actor. But I got it out and I crashed hard, but it was really well reacted. And I have been told that in some way, whatever way that is, that helped Netflix get them back. That was part of the the fans love this. It might be 0.5% part of it. It might be more, but
it's something.
I know that was seen and registered as we did that, and I'm very proud to have been part of that. There is more coming because I was producing more things for the Save Project campaign. Mm-hmm. It's now been saved, but I've still got a huge amount of stuff in the pipeline. So it's now a Project Season 3 stuff, and you're gonna love this. You are gonna love this. Hopefully January. It would have been out earlier, but 2 of my CG artists took a month and a half off each without telling me at the same time.
Oh, don't you just love when people are just like, I'm going to take time off for a few months.
I only had 5 new things to build. They all took a month and a half off. I love them to bits, right? But I wish they'd, because I planned and then all the plans disappeared. So that was a film thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm never going to do that again, right?
Yeah.
But it was another lightning in a bottle, But that's what shows what you can do if you do six days, every hour of the day. But of course, if you do that a few times, my bank account is certainly not appreciating my amount of work on fan films because, it does, if you don't work, you don't get paid. And if you do that enough, it hurts. So hopefully people appreciate the work.
But what you were able to get out of this is you could say with accuracy is that you did play some part in getting Prodigy saved. I can sit and say that, and I'm sure you could say that. Now, has that been a discussion with you and Aaron? Was that a thank you for saving this, or I'm glad you took part? We believe
thank you for your effort. I mean, everything's all part of a bigger note. But yeah, I mean, you get lovely feedback, and we watched it together the first time, and I'm not going to say how he reacted, but I'll always remember seeing him react. It was very special to him.
There's note to self that I would love to be able to get the two of you on a Star Trek Prodigy talk about the shift to Netflix, season 2 and 3. So just a little something to put on a post-it note. If we can make happen, I think that would be great.
I'm sure he'd be down
to talk with you guys. Yeah. So
it's just a funny, happy accident. I did it on purpose. I was the creator of the very first Picard Season 2 fan film and the first Prodigy fan film ever, and the first 3 days in live action.
Yeah.
Oops. Cool.
So
okay, I'll take it.
put that in the back of your mind there. I think that would be a lot of fun to do. We've got now Broken Reality. So you've got
Are
a
you Stargate
Stargate
fan? Have you seen
crossover.
Stargate?
I have seen. I picked
You got it. You appreciate.
Yes. So during the when the pandemic hit and quarantine and all that, there was a 2-year period that I was work from home, and there was so much stuff that I watched because, of course, I have multiple monitors. So I would have one monitor was work, and the other one was in the peripheral, like I'm in my peripheral watching stuff, glancing over and all of that. And I decided I was going to do something that I had always wanted to do, but but never had the opportunity. Was I did a full watch of SG-1, Atlantis, Stargate Universe, and so I could really appreciate that in seeing that Stargate crossover, because Stargate, very good series. I mean,
It's aging phenomenally well.
it is. I'm not sure about Universe though. I mean, it's it's not that I didn't like it. It's just I know that there was a lot of time in between when SG-1 and Atlantis aired, and Universe, if I recall, was about 5 or 6 years after the end of Stargate Atlantis in regards to when it was on TV.
Back to back. Everything was back to back.
Everything was back to back. Why did it feel so different? It just
Because that was the point.
It looked different. Like looked like they used different cameras. Is what I'm talking about.
Oh, it probably did.
It just okay. It felt like it was a.
Well, it was trying to be. I mean, what I say about Universe, it was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
It was serialized. It was episodic yet very serialized. It was gritty, which for, like 2010s, or there was like a gritty period. It was earlier than it was a bit early. I think if that came out now on Netflix, as like all 20 episodes, watch it as a binge. Because if you sit down and watch it as a binge, it's phenomenal because it's slow, but it's binge show. So you just burn through the character development. And season 2 has some of the best Stargate because it's just you've got all that character build up. Atlantis, it does it over years.
Yeah.
You still don't know a lot about Taylor, but you know a lot about all the characters in Universe because they've spent the time. It's just a different sort of show.
Right.
Anyway,
it was good to see another return of Emma Thorne and her character of Laura Reed. And it looks like you definitely are getting a lot of time, a lot of use out of Emma and her acting abilities. It's good to see recurring characters for sure. Now, have you written more and done more based off of the actors that you get and on their performance? I'm sure this is a dumb question, but of course, do you feel like you lean towards writing more for a person that gives you a good performance because you like working with them and you want to have them in more stories than you probably would have? Of course, you're going to want someone that's easy to work with to come back. You don't want someone that was just an asshole. You don't want to work with people like that. So I'm sure that yes, this is probably we really like your character and how you've played it, and I love Stargate. So you're going to be in this crossover. I
would work with any of my cast 7 days straight, every single one. No issues. We have the most ridiculously wonderful cast. That's not remotely it in that terms. M is, however, the cheapest to get and the easiest to get.
Okay.
And that has benefited her character greatly. Nim has to kind of be a 2-day shoot gal, so I got to pay for all the expenses and hotels. So it costs a lot more to get her down. Emma can come for a day via train, and I pay for lunch.
Yeah.
Because think about it, if they've got to come in Friday, you've got to, well, you don't have to, but I pay for their dinner and the hotel, and then Saturdays breakfast, lunch, dinner, hotel, and then Sundays breakfast, lunch, just to get them on set.
I would skip a meal, bring some snacks.
Well, that's what Alex
get
does,
a bag of dried fruit and some nuts.
Marcus can do a full day, but we tend to. Everyone's kind of different with. So Nim was originally our lead,
Bologna
then she just-
sandwiches.
To get to here is more expensive.
Yeah.
Alexa's only she's like 4.5 hours away, so she's only 2 days or nothing. Love her to bits. Would get her in more. Nick is obviously flying from Scotland, so again 400-500. Marcus can do a day pretty easily. That's why he's in a few more. And Emma, she's also a YouTuber, so I like to help her if I can. So yeah, I'm like, Emma, can I help you with anything soon, filmmaking wise? Great, come down, and then I'll film one of my films with you. Like it's that sort of nice vibe. We always duo a day. I think I did a photo shoot for her for a clothing line, and then our film that you just watched. So that's a lovely way of doing it. So she's had a second trilogy because of that. So we actually filmed a trilogy first. And then we had 3 opportunities to film bonus ones, and that became her first trilogy. So if you watch her next film, it'll be her first film we shot. We didn't know each other at all, so she'll be really nervous and less her, versus her first film that you saw, which was actually her 5th film with us, when she's really bouncy with me.
Yeah.
Yep. But because I knew her trilogy, the first 3 have been released. There's so many hints to her future. Oh my god! You watch them again, you're like, oh, I feel even worse now. Like it's really satisfying because I could write in all these levels that you'll only get after the fact. And Nick is phenomenal.
He is, yes.
I mean, because he's in her trilogy, her real trilogy, and he's so fun. He's a fully de-aged for 1 episode, and himself for another episode, which is fun. Just for a whole episode, just be 25, 30 for a whole episode.
Yeah, when I was talking with him, and I even told him, I said, I've been watching your stuff since Star Trek Intrepid first came around, and I think he had it was great timing what we talked about, because there was that period, that gap between Nemesis and Discovery where there wasn't any Star Trek happening, and if you put in a fan film at that point, you were the only Star Trek content, and so it was that lightning in a bottle. It was big, like it kind of catapulted your fan film career there. So that was a big thing, and I think you're able to do that now, still, with the characters and the actors that you're using today. I'd like to go on to Chaos of the Neutral Zone, unless there's something in Broken Reality.
I mean, did you like Broken Reality? Like, what was your thoughts on the overall film?
It was a little hard for me to follow that one. I totally understood the Stargate crossover, and I guess, okay, maybe if you clarify it, I'll understand a little more. Was this was kind of like a multiverse sort of episode? We were seeing this character as she may have been in different timelines. Did I miss that? Did I have that right? This is actually
part 3 of the Stargate fan film series that I'm doing as well.
Okay.
So the last film we just saw in the Stargate fan film series, they talk about how Baal's back.
Yeah.
And this film, we don't say it because there's no one on the ship, but all the musical cues are Baal. So it's his ship. In the next film, which is a similar film, just bigger, much bigger, there is actually a crew, and it's clear, and it's more whatever. So yeah, the idea is that Baal in the Stargate film series is playing with alternate reality tech. Yep. And he's testing how to go to other universes, and he sends a ship into the Trek universe and meets our character. So it ups the tension for the Stargate shows, and there's be a big crossover later, which we've fully shot, and that's big, really big. A lot of Enterprise E in that one. My goodness, you're going to see a lot of the Enterprise E.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So the idea is that the anomaly is shifting. It's kind of because there's unlimited multiverses, right?
Yep.
So she's swapping places mentally with them. So it's there's enough versions of her in the multiverse that are also in a shuttle, also there, that she's swapping with them.
Mm-hmm. It's
silly, of course, because how is she TOS? But also shut up. Like, it's unlimited universes. It's fine. I loved her with a red hair, because that's her Stargate wig. And we did one take. And she couldn't keep it out of her eyes. We just kept it. It was just so organic. So lovely.
It was. It really worked.
Because the characters have short hair. She's never had long hair. So like, oh my god, I have long. It's so characterful. It's so nice. And it's great because she's a really shitty pilot. That's one of her biggest gags.
Right.
And she's so happy that she pilots well. But if you look at what she does this. I'm a great dude. You went up. Like I love it. She's so happy.
You didn't crash. So that's
which in theory for her wonderful, but that's the limit of her ability set. In her actual next film, there's a huge payoff to that, which is the point of this film as well to set up that payoff. Out of time order.
Yeah.
But I love her sincerity. They're like, I'm a great, but no, you're not. And if you watch the last scene in her crew quarters, every element on that set is a reuse from a future film. In the Picard era, or the early Picard era, which are also setups for that film. Everything's, because this is one of those random ones, I had it for half a day, so I was able to pull in elements from other films to add to the great tapestry what I already have in the buffer, these elements. Yeah. What am I doing with my life?
What you're doing is what you like to do. It's a passion that you've got.
It's not been done before at this level. This is kind of bigger.
I think it is. I can certainly agree with you on that. You have, I think that what you've hit on in regards to the whole Memory Alpha documentary series, and that takes me to Chaos at the Neutral Zone. I think that if there's anything that you're looking for, a niche part of this is what it's 543 Productions, right? That's your YouTube channel. If it's doing that documentary style, I think you've got it. That each of those has come off beautifully when you do that, and it gives you another opportunity. This was a good crossover. You've got the Enterprise D and the Indianapolis. So you've got that Constellation class ship, which is the same class from that the Stargazer is from Picard's first command. So that gives you yet another way of telling a story and being able to incorporate more ship cameos, more Easter eggs.
Organically. And that's important. It's not forced. And again, I hadn't written that story until I already had the ship. So if she happened to have that ship class, ABC, we all come together. It's funny, if I had known I could do these docs so well, I might have just said, let me Indiegogo 15 docs. And just done that, because it'd be a lot easier, a lot cheaper. Although you do miss narratives and moving people. But then you get a doc, and it's like, wow, so much story. Because you can't tell a giant political drama on $1,000 budget unless it's a doc. You know, like that many characters and crew and vibe and Ferengi and Romulan, but you can with a doc.
Yeah.
You know, but you can't do them all the time because
the documentary lets you do more.
Well, you felt like you fought the Romulans and the Ferengi, but they weren't. I guess it was technically on the view screen, but like because they're in the story actively, you feel like they're there. But if I was actually have the Enterprise D, you need pacing, you need background extras, you need to feel these things. But documentary, I was able to get away with the feel of it. You do see it briefly, but in a very minimal way. But you still have that emotional connection. And she's great in that. I love her naivety and the truth-telling of, you know, why throw stones? Why are they trying to be mean when they could just be nice? Like, that simple truth. And I've had some emails since. That feels very appropriate to the modern conflict in the Middle East. Like, oops, there's some parallels there that I didn't mean to write, but they're universal, right? They're just about war and unnecessary conflict and just sides in a battle. You know, when you're that low down on the ground, it's like, I don't see the point of this. It's like, yeah, neither do we as the audience. It's not the point.
Right, yeah. That first meeting I should have included also as part of that.
It's a lot of films, it's okay.
It's a lot of films. Well, what I was going to say was, you really like... And I really like those crossovers of the different characters and different stories. So Chaos at the Neutral Zone, and again, First Meeting. And First Meeting is also taking a group of these characters from these different stories and different productions and doing this crossovers, which goes back to what I was saying with the sort of the Marvel Cinematic Universe feel. Is that you have more of that intertwining, more of that connection, and
it feels satisfying, doesn't it?
It does. It does feel satisfying. I feel like there's a serialized story in there. Let me take that back just a little bit. you do have these episodic stories with serialized undertones that's in there. So if you just watch one, you can enjoy that one. But if you've watched all these others here, then you can appreciate it a little more because there's that thread of character and story that you see continuing. They're not just self-contained bottle episodes that have no growth that you can see with the recurring characters and with these crossovers, telling stories that are parallel to different Next Generation episodes, different movies, things we've seen on screen, and it's like, okay, you've got this story, you've got the story of Captain Pressman when he was on, doing the illegal testing, experimenting on a phase cloak. That's included in the story. This is the side telling of that.
That was fun.
Which is great. You're able to take things that have already, quote unquote, already done, but you've got that. Here's a story from this perspective, from this angle.
But hopefully not. And I hate the word. It's such a stupid word. The word fan service, because you're making content for the fans of the content. You're not making it for the football fan.
Right.
Like explicitly, that's the whole point of the content, to be for fans. If you're not making it for the fans, they'll stop being fans. You have no content.
Yes.
But you could argue including things is lazy. I like to think of it as the way I do it is utilizing the universe. So if this makes sense, let's integrate it in a way, because as soon as I mentioned Pressman, like, oh, all that depth comes out into what I'm doing and what I'm saying. All I've said is a word. And it could be anything, but by using that and it making sense, I try and make it all organic. It's important to me. They shouldn't feel. I want them to feel like real stories first, not fan films first. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep. It does.
Yeah. It's tricky, but it's fun. And our first meeting was we had the two actors because that's one of those times that Nim had to cancel because of health reasons.
Yeah.
So I had to get them two together to finish 10 pages of a film, or 5 pages. So half a day. Let's do this because I hadn't. Getting two together is double the cost, right?
Yep.
2 hotels, 2 lunch, 2 days.
You're gonna get the same room together. You're gonna share twin
I've yet
beds.
to suggest that.
You're getting bologna sandwiches.
Yeah.
That's how we're saving money.
But that was so charming, and there's so much foreshadowing in that because that's Keely when she's happy again. And there's a lot of unhappy Keely coming because Dominion War is a very, very bad time for her. Really bad time. And we knew that going in. That's why she's so happy in the first film, because there's a journey. And Reed, of course, what do they say in the story? She's kind of famous, right?
Yeah.
But also, and I loved it. It was about half an hour in after it came out. Someone said, "She's still an ensign?"
Yeah.
From TNG to Nemesis?
Yeah, it can't still be an ensign. I mean, we can't do another Harry Kim incident here.
Yeah, and she kind of looks the same and acts the same, and has she not lived in between? Like this, and then they say something like she's famous, because obviously stuff's happened in her life, but we've not seen it yet. So I'm able to foreshadow past events that you haven't seen yet.
Right.
How wacky is that?
Yeah.
It's yeah.
It's another piece of unique storytelling.
Yep. Because they live their real lives. They are not going to react any other way except how they're going to react with their own experience, their own knowledge. It's just not spoiling the plots by talking that. That's kind of tricky sometimes. And there's a couple of films where I had to spoil something to tell the story because they've lived that life. But again, often it's just we lived. Right, that's the spoiler. We survived. That's not really a spoiler, is it? Of course we lived. And that was cute, and that was a funny film because if you, especially the Reed angle, there's a pathway there, just off camera, so there were passers-by the entire time staring at us, just off camera, because we had about an hour and a half to film that, so we had to go to a place that was close enough to get back for the trains.
Right.
So it's the edge of a park
Uh-huh.
with a path. And there was a football game behind us, so I had to do some very clever AI audio bullshit to try and save it. Because literally you can hear, "Wah!" It's very distracting, but I did some stuff. No, literally, there's a few takes, and there's one lovely take where Emma is, because she's quite, I think Emma's fantastic in that. I think she does a really good job. She's emoting so well, and a pram goes by her face. I'm like, I'm really sorry, Emma, take two. Yeah, there's a few of those times. And there's a bit where Nim has no idea what she's saying because she hasn't lived the story yet that she's talking about. I'm like, Nim, you have to be sad here. Then she gives it take two, and it's amazing. But it's like, Nim, don't be happy, stop being happy. Because they haven't lived it yet, and it's complicated, right? They're doing it out of all sequence, which is but it's fun.
And that's your part as the director, is you've got to direct that emotion, and that we're filming this out of sequence, and your character is actually at this point in the story where they've had something happen and you're not happy. So you're going to be happy tomorrow when we shoot the scene that takes place before the scene we're doing right now, et cetera, et cetera.
You've got to know the whole thing.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's a double funny thing I'm very proud of, actually. So this film helped me retcon a giant thread, because Long Way From Home was a standalone, never intended to make a series. Well, Dad's a Roman in that film. I don't like non-canon stuff.
Right.
Yet he's a TOS character. So I Eureka, Dad, please be in this film. He was not having a good day. He didn't want to come do that. He was very, not grumpy, but like, he wants to do more films. But that was a bad day to ask him. But they're here between 4 and 5, Dad. You got to be on set. But it allowed me to square a giant circle, because now there's a TOS film where Dad deals with Romans.
Yep.
But he is a Roman clone in that story. So Nim plays a Roman story. That Roman story, she played the holodeck simulation of that story that we already saw a doc about, where they didn't save him, and the planet is still full Roman dads. So that's who she fights in Long Way From Home. A Roman Galloway from the Galloway doc.
That's beautiful. Wow. That is good.
I've completely fixed that. And
That
I know
is good.
Dad wanted to act against Emma once. So he's a TNG character as well.
Uh-huh.
And then she's like, I recognise him. I'm addressing it. And I've managed to successfully close that giant loop.
Wow. And that's the payoff. That is the multi-film, multi-year payoff right there.
And it's really fun, actually. I kind of want to bring Roman him again, because it's like, you're Galloway! You're a clone! It's great! And it shows the character kept playing Roman horror novels for like 4 years. That's really kind of cool that she kept playing these. That's development on itself. Yeah. That was a nice thing to do.
This one, the last one you had me take a watch at, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching all of these. This one, Packlid Resurgence, makes a very good point that I was going to bring up about all of these films as a whole as I watch these, in that this could be taken as a good or a bad thing, is that to really, a lot of your stories, to me, seems like you're not going to understand these if you have not watched a lot of Star Trek, and maybe almost all of it. Especially the bold move of, if you hadn't played this game, which I had just played and finished maybe a month ago, if you haven't seen this, sure, you're going to know that it's right. Okay, it's a captain, there's a ship, it's the story, here's the thing. But I played Resurgence, and so I know.
Happy.
Yes, I know the captain, the ship, the story. So there was more of a payoff because I had played that game. And through all of your films and all of your stories, what I like about it is there's a payoff for the people that are deep into all of TOS, DS9, Voyager, the animated series. I'm one of those people that I've seen everything. Every episode, every movie, every series, and even these games. So for me, it really feels like that's a very rewarding experience because you don't have to get into that backstory of, okay, this is this because of that, because of this, and let's go into that, and you're out in the weeds and forget about it. So when you're talking about doing these films for fans, would you have to say that the foundation of your films and what you do, that you're thinking of the fans first and foremost, that what I'm making, these films, are not for John Q. public. It's not necessarily for someone that all they know about Star Trek is Klingons, Dr. Spock, and the one with the whales. I am doing these for the ones that know all these little ins and outs. Is that what you're doing?
Well, you've got to look at the simple craziness of we are me, Randy, Gary, Joshua. We're making films with an expected audience of a few thousand, tens of thousands, 100,000 over several years, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's billions of people. There's billions of Trek fans. There's hundreds of millions of hardcore fans. There's only a couple of million, maybe, fan film watchers, and there's only a couple that watch actively. They're already the hardest core of people, or our mums and dads and brothers and sisters, who don't know anything. So these are already the hardest core. You don't look for a Star Trek fan film unless you are the absolute 0.1% of people, anyway, right?
Right.
And if you aren't that percent, then you're the person who's going to comment on our next films. When did Starfleet get Scottish? Because they don't understand it's a fan film where they're from Scotland. That's all you have to say. They're not all going to American like that. But if you don't know, or there's a shit camera. It's like, yeah, because it's not a studio. What do you mean? It doesn't have a like. There's the fan film watcher, as broad as that might be, and there's lots of people. They understand it's a fan film, and they're already looking out for that. So honestly, if I get the 50,000 fan film audience, I'm okay with that.
You know what I'm going to be laughing about all night is, when did Starfleet become Scottish?
Yeah. We hear that it's very annoying. Same with English. It's like, but that's actually really kind of rude to say, oh yeah, why is Starfleet all American? Have you ever thought about that? No, because you're American centric. Like, there's no English people really. There's no Afro-Caribbean. There's no.
I get it. I get it. Yeah.
Of course there would be. Yes, it's weird they're all in one ship, obviously, but that's just it's just a ridiculous comment because we live in England. Like, I think you'd rather see real accents and good acting than bad accents and bad acting, because then you'd complain it's a bad accent. That'd be the first comment. Oh, bad accents.
Right.
There's no point. Just do the best acting.
Yeah, I don't understand your accent and this and that. Well, you're showing what Starfleet would really be, and you're right. If this were real, we're really in the future in Starfleet. Okay, we get that Starfleet headquarters is in San Francisco on Earth, but the Federation, quote unquote White House, it's in Paris, France. So the reason Starfleet feels to us that it's very American centric is because that's our audience.
It's filmed in America.
It's filmed in America.
They could have got other accents, but they didn't.
Right.
Because there's more American accents in LA. It's fine.
Sure.
But it's not a complaint you should be having. So no. I'm fine with the audience we're going to have is the people who know.
Yeah.
But also the fact that if you've grown up in the universe through the Dominion War, through the Cardassian Border War, you're going to have so many things that define your psyche based on these big events. You're going to reference them. I mentioned Hitler. You mentioned World War II. These are things we talk about socially in this format because they're important. So somebody's going to mention the Dominion War and maybe a thing they did once with a Vorta or whatever. Like, that's just going to come up. If you've never seen DS9, it means nothing. But to them, the characters mean something. They are real people, and I try and write them like people. So you can't strip that away from them. I think that's important. I hope they feel sort of real people because I'm writing them to be real people, which I always find funny. I wrote, a big film, the big film we've done, which is a huge budget for us. And it's like I'm writing women from 20 to 40, men who aren't me, like, how am I writing 8 people with radically different vibes successfully and everyone's thinking it's good and like, damn. Because
Yeah.
you don't write women the same from 20 to 40, men from, or the aged men the same.
Yeah.
You write people. What
Yeah.
these people say, and these experiences. Like I said, Keeley. When you'll see the Dominion War films, you will see what they did to her, and it ain't fun. It's a whole fun arc we had planned that we're waiting for her to be more free, because she has to actually learn those dialogue lines because they're so intense that she's busy with work and
Right.
it's a weekend thing for her. That's gonna be intense because that's the point of those bits. Whereas if you're a captain, you kind of shrug it off more, I guess. But she had a really bad time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have to applaud what you're able to accomplish just with getting people not only in different time zones but different countries coordinated on one thing. You see how I absolutely know that difficulty of the group project where you feel like, okay, nothing's going to happen unless I directly am involved in it and getting it done. I can definitely sympathize with you there. And just for you and I to coordinate, and same thing happened with Nick. It's not a bad thing. It's just we're in different time zones. It's tricky. Like for me, after work, when I can do that, you're talking 5 o'clock. For you, it's at night.
It is now tomorrow.
Right. Which is, oh, geez, I didn't mean to keep you on this long. Well, we knew it was going to be a good 2 hours talk at least. And
I've still got work to do after this. I'm not done my work day. Don't worry.
right, exactly. And so you've got that right there. There are a lot of challenges, and you've been able to overcome those. You've got the challenges of the editing, the CGI, acting, the directing, the logistics of just being able to get people from different countries, different places there, and then being able to adjust to things like the pandemic or cancellation, something happening, unexpected. Well, I'm going to take a few months off, just out of the blue. Kind of leaving you with the bag to get it all done.
I'm going to move 3 more hours up north, so getting you back is like, I've really got to plan everything. It's like last day we had Alexa when she was only 2 hours away. We had for a 4-day shoot. Mm-hmm. She had 4 films because she was bits, parts, and all of them, and it was horrendous. But it's like, this is going to cost us much less to do so much as a 3-day. Then and that's the thing. We're so over budget. It's cry worthy, right?
Yeah.
But it's such a good project. And those who are invested in what we're doing are so invested.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not necessarily financially, because if everyone gave obviously $15, we'd be funded for whatever. But like, I think we're doing something really nice for people, and people are seeing TNG again, and DS9 again, and Voyager again, and connective tissue, and maybe it's arrogant of me to think we're doing something nice for people, but like this is special, I think, and it's draining and it's bad for money, but I think it's meaningful in its own way, and hopefully people will Indiegogo it back at some point eventually, and
you saved a Star Trek series.
Maybe
that right there. That is, that's if there's no other payoff to anything else, there's that you can.
Well, and I was also the first Resurgence fan film ever, the first Prodigy one. I mean, that's world exclusives that no one's ever going to be able to catch me on because I got them first. And
right.
I know the Resurgence team love my film. Boy, it blindsided them. Obviously, here's your ship as a hero. What?
Yeah.
God, that film, the Packard one. It was a 17-page script. It's 27 minutes somehow. I acted so slow and considered. It was twice as long as the script. That's crazy.
It was longer than the script. It was longer than you thought it was going to be.
So much longer. But I speak fast. I know I do. I just got into the zone of speaking properly. And obviously acting.
Yeah.
God, that was it's a very long film. I know it's probably too long, but it's meant to do some other things. Like if I removed Captain Mukherjee and Sean and Dad and Stuart, it'd be shorter. But each of those are really, really important for a future project. really important, so I can't cut any of them because that's why I filmed them.
Yeah.
But also, it's that's a funny film because it's meant to feel like Lower Decks. Stuff just keeps going wrong and happening, and kind of shifting the perspective a bit. So it's like another thing, another thing. Okay, we're saved.
And you still want to focus on and pay attention to that building, that foundation. You're doing this. One of the reasons is building that storyline of a character, because you've only got, so that 20, 30 minutes, I think max is the guideline. Yeah. So, and plus with the travel and everything else, you've got to pack in as much of that story, but then you're spreading it out. And so you don't want to take out those characters, because that might make Packlet Resurgence less time, but then now you've put off having to tell their story. So it's probably going to make the next one long anyway.
I mean, I wrote Packlet specifically to set up another film.
Yep.
As silly as that sounds, that was a film that got delayed because of the CG modelers. So I had to have a 2-month delay. So I said, well, I was somehow releasing a film a month for 6 months, which is
Unheard of.
Wow. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I didn't want to lose that streak until 6 months at least, because that's a big thing to say. So I made that film. So I was like, well, I can set up other things. So I was actually, and it's really useful I did, because like I say, there's a lot of important setup there. For this other big thing.
Well, if I recall right, Nick was telling me that that kind of output hasn't quite, no one else but Hidden Frontier has really been able to churn out like that.
And they weren't editing; they were live shooting, live editing. Like that. Once they finished their day, the film was done. Then it was just space effects.
Yeah.
Everything's green to me. Everything's yeah. I don't intend to do it next year. I mean, I can't. Like I'm like I said, it's hit my income just so much. But I also didn't think it was going to go on this long. I thought the big film's going to come out and I could slow down, but it didn't happen. So I've had to readjust my scheduling a bit. Like I was meant to do my next Indiegogo in November.
You were.
I had to move that, which is bad for other reasons. But it's just like But I'm adapting. Things are causing things and causing reasons.
You've talked about the cost part of it. Now, are you married?
No.
No. Do you have kids?
No.
Then you have no excuse. You've got all the money you could ever want. Can you imagine?
Yeah. No, I know.
Let me just tell you, if you're going to keep doing fan films, don't do either of those. Don't get married. Don't have kids. Because if you think you're broke now.
Yeah. But when you spend 160% of your income in 1 month on a fan film, literally almost twice what you've earned.
That's got to sting.
Yeah. How many months can you do that?
True.
You literally aren't earning enough money to feed because you're using savings, that's a problem. But you thought, well, that 1 month I have to, Like there's and you're right, I'm taking my opportunity to build these things while I've not got that. Because when I get that, I'm going to work 6 days, 9 to 5 to 6.
Fan filmmaking career will be over.
But look what I've achieved.
Don't do it. Yes, you've achieved so much. I would like to see you keep doing this and not jeopardize.
Well, and that's why the Patreon's there.
Yeah.
Trek Shorts Patreon, because our actors are so invested in their characters. They want to do more because it's both fun, rewarding, helps them and their family as well, and it's good work. Like fan films aren't always great, but if you're in a good one, you're like, yeah, I'll do another one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Patreon is a good way of doing that. We have films that can be, we have 3 genuinely big films.
Yeah.
That will take about 3 months to make each.
Oh, really?
In post, because they are that big.
Right.
These smaller films are small because I could make them on time. So when I stop releasing a month, which will be in January, then I'll do some bigger ones, and they're going to be but they are much bigger. You're looking at potentially 40 minutes. Because they're 120 backgrounds because they walk through sets, like Temporal Anomalous, one of those again, right?
Yeah.
And they're just big, but they're really excited. They're we've released trailers for 2 of them. There's a Vidra episode and a Whale Probe episode. Didn't mean to make both, but I had a story with both, and both are really good. Like some of my favorite stuff is the Whale Probe one. It's Horizon's back, like that's the lead, which is really sweet because it's a ship I designed. Nick is phenomenal in it. Emma and Nim are phenomenal in it. We kind of got a Horizon crew. You know, when you play in timelines, you can say, well, now we're on the same trip here, we can do a story in here.
Yeah.
And there's some really good stuff in that one, especially that one. And I've done so many, and you think those are good. When I say that one's extra good, it's like, I mean that.
Right.
But that's like a 3.5, 4 times budget film, because if you're doing like 7 shoot days, you know, it's like you can't negotiate with the hotel. You know, or the flights, like things cost, and you know we managed to raise what 13,000 last year. And I'll be honest, we'd already spent 9,000 of that before we did the Indiegogo.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't go very far, because that was just to recoup 9,000. I've just been living in loss for the last 12 months.
Even with that, it sounds like what you're able to break through, and to me, I feel like this would be the biggest challenge, is if you put yourself in the shoes of a fan, viewer, person, it's okay, yet another Kickstarter, another Patreon page, another Indiegogo. Everybody's doing it. So that's got to be an accomplishment to break through that everyone's doing it, and the last thing they want to see is yet another post, another advertisement about this. But you've got that core audience. It's the same with podcasting. Like, oh, yay, another Star Trek podcast. Who cares? And that's tough. We've been doing Beyond Trek podcasts since the summer of 2019, and have a lot of fun doing it. I've done a lot of episodes and such, but I can tell you, there's a stubbornness, I think, in just the audience, where there's so much of it out there that it's tough to stand out. It's hard to feel special when you do something. And I've talked to other fan film creators, and we've talked about we don't do it for the views. We get it, but those are nice, especially when you're spending the kind of money you are. It's like the views are our currency. That's our currency, and that's kind of the it shows you that, yes, well, if I'm going to spend the money on it, damn it, I want people to watch it, and that kind of thing. So do you feel like you put a lot into that?
I did watch that interview, and it's very interesting. You know, good interviews. I like those weird questions, because you know you come from a YouTube perspective. That's different from most other interviewers, etc. So I was trained as a filmmaker, right? Want to do it from a teenager. Did that at school. I did paid work outside university the entire 4 years on men. I have a broad portfolio of things I was hired to do. So I've done a lot of things. So when I make content, it's to be watched by people.
Yeah.
It's not for me. I know a lot of them are saying it's for them. It's the opposite for me. I will never want to make anything that will be viewed by my family only.
Right.
Because I'm here to tell stories that are there to grab other people. So views are a currency, like you say, but it's just I'm trying to make a film that people want to watch, who haven't seen before, that can hit them in a different way with characters they like, so that they can get more views, because I want people to enjoy my work. You know, I am doing it to be watched by people because it's there to be enjoyed. And honestly, you know, the amount of people have said to me, you know, you brought me back into Star Trek for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Because the green screen's quite good and the acting's pretty damn good, and especially the Enterprise D one, that was the big hitter. Like, that many people relived something in a way that other fan films don't do for them for various reasons. That's nice to have, to give people that sort of gift. And it obviously costs. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken that burden on myself because I have faith that I'm doing something special that will get more people, and that eventually will Indiegogo it back.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You know, right now I can do that. And accidental bonus films, because Prodigy really changed the rest of my year.
Yeah.
Changed what I was doing. But I've got to do some really special things because of it, you know. It would be nice, you know, if the Patreon, like, if that would be 1,000 a month, and I could just make a doc every other month, you know, like, a stability factor would be lovely, because the cast want to do more. The more films I do, the more assets I have. So, whereas when I started, the idea of doing the Enterprise E And having, say, engineering was like, well, that's a 2-month build. We'll have to pay for that. L cars. These things add up. When you're 25 films in, if I want to have just a cutaway to an ambassador fighting a Dominion battleship, and you do a cutaway to the bridge, okay.
Yeah.
Load. Production value. It's cheaper to make better, except the practical costs of filming. Those are not going to change, however much I want them to. Because we're not American houses. We don't have spare rooms. We don't have 3 spare couches, right? Like, there isn't that ability here.
You need some blow up mattresses for the people that fly in.
The
Some
only
pull out
space is the green
sofas.
screen studio. You know, people don't want to stay out in the green screen. That's a full space at the time. So yeah, you know, we were going to do an Indiegogo in November, like I say, for about $25,000. So not having that is certainly a thing. But you'll see this big project is insane. And I'm very excited about it. Hopefully January. And that kind of took over a little bit, and that's okay. It's project based. It was to help the show. It didn't mean for it to be helped before the film was made, but still get finished.
I think you can only go so far on the mentality of don't do it for the views, do it for fun. Okay, yeah, sure, but the thing is that if you're just doing it for fun, for the shits and giggles, then it probably won't be that good, or it's not going to be. You may even not be doing fan films, or your films would be no more than sitting in a chair with a table and a closet behind you, or maybe a green screen, but you're doing things that are getting noticed. And I think that's what's really rewarding. I feel like that if my only intention for the last 4 years was just to have fun, I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you right now, because I would not have cared to put in any effort to network with more people. My circle of friends and people to get to know has been enhanced by the not just doing it for fun. I've gotten out there and made more connections, talked to more people, found this niche of the fan film side, which I didn't know was as big as it is. And
the Star Wars fan film community is fantastic. They have higher quality but less diversity.
yes,
We have radical diversity and lower quality, but better characters and better stories.
right, exactly. And I'm thankful for that, for being able to meet guys like yourself, Vance, Joshua, Frank, Nick.
You can keep listing.
You can keep going.
Keep going.
Yes, you can keep going, and it's nice to have something that no one else has their hands in, because you can find Star Trek episode review shows anywhere you look. They're all over. If you want to see a podcast of 2 guys sitting around talking about Star Trek, we've got you covered. That's all over the place. But if you're able to find that thing that no one is overusing, and for me, it feels like, okay, well, by wanting to get better, by wanting to do more with editing, with audio, video, all these things, and wanting to get better with people that I'm able to meet and sit down with, well, that's how magically I've discovered this community that's really untapped. It feels like it's untapped. I'm able to speak with all of you guys and do these interviews, and for you, it's not, oh great, it's yet another Star Trek podcast that's focused on fan films. There's 8 of them now. It doesn't seem like it's like that.
I mean, I want to celebrate the cast and crew and tell the stories. So I'm happy to talk to anybody, just because you're not going to know these funny, silly stories about the cast unless you talk to us. And we all put so much work into it, and love and dick jokes, Marcus. Hey, the jokes.
Yeah.
Hell of a cast. Some wonderful bloopers. There's actually I'll give you. Do you want a world exclusive?
Yes.
Okay, I'll give you a world exclusive.
I love it.
So right at the end of last year, when it was meant to be summer, but it was winter, so we had to shoot and not let it be cold because it was summer. I filmed an office style film about my cast.
So it's meta.
So it was a 100% scripted
Okay.
day in the life, filming a fan film where every actor plays themselves, their character, and a second version of their character.
Oh.
And it was expensive because it was a multi-day shoot with many actors.
Yeah.
But it was so rewarding, A, from an actor's point of view, because they had to play themselves but not themselves.
Yeah.
But because we'd be watching The Office, that was the inspiration, obviously. But I thought, like, this is such a moment in time, this cast. So to celebrate them by kind of, because we're going to forget the in-jokes in 10 years' time, right?
Yeah.
But to incorporate things in this script, my favourite bit of that was that we had a bit where Nim scolded me about something, as she sometimes does. She used the same phrase as I wrote in the script. And I said, "See? You do say that! It's on page 7!" Because she does say it. And she didn't realise. And it's like, I captured, like, it was just another lightning in a bottle sort of script. It was just clever. And it was so much fun. Because there's a scene where I'm filming there's a scene where I am filming Marcus, where he's playing the character, and then he bloopers. And then I, as the director in the film, talk to him about the blooper and direct him differently. So he has to act, character, actor, character. It's so much fun. And we kept forgetting the separation point.
Yeah.
Because it's just being.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to see everyone play. And because it's not canon.
Right.
Because it's filming a film I don't actually have to make.
Oh, I love this.
So it goes in ways that you don't think, but it's still sort of canon. Like, they still reference things that exist, but it's not a story I'm really making. It's a fake story. And Nim didn't get that at first. She's like, "This is a cool story. Why don't we film the rest?" No, this is a fake story inside a real story. I mean, it was, like I say, it was a multi-day, like, bigger budget film, but as a point to keep the memory. So there's an Office style doc about the.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to see this.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
oh, that is great.
Because we had lunch, and I filmed us having lunch because we need to have lunch, but we always have lunch in the same way. So I wrote the lunch scene as we're having lunch. So we're actually filming real lunch, but fully scripted.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great to hear the insults scripted. Because they learned the whole script. Like, it was fully, like, long scenes of script.
Yeah.
That sound real, because they're meant to be real. It's really surreal. As
it's written to be real.
To be real. It's really, really strange. Hard to direct as long as you're directing. Marcus, be more like yourself.
Yeah. Be more you.
Yeah, literally, it was really, really fun. But confusing because everything was out of order. Because like, Nim's hair takes 50 minutes to change. So literally, it's like, right, change Nim. We'll shoot scene 2, 4, and 7 while you swap. And that is a big, there are certain things that take time on our shoot.
Yeah.
That's one of them. Oh, that was fun. It's a weird one. That was a fun one.
Well, I am greatly looking forward to seeing that. And what I'd like for you to do, if you could, for our audience, any social medias, projects, anything that you want to promote, plug, just lay it on us.
Trek Shorts, Google it. You'll find us on Facebook. You'll find us on Facebook. But obviously
That's
YouTube,
Trek Shorts.
Trek Shorts. Not Short Treks, because they stopped doing them. So we took over the mantle as Trek Shorts. Because it summarizes what we do, right?
Yep.
We have a Patreon, which is monthly donation at Trek Shorts. We also have a Doctor Who, depending when this comes out. Doctor Who fan from Indiegogo right now as well, but that's only till the end of December, so that probably won't be up, but that's also going, because, Marcus is a huge Doctor Who fan. We wanted to have his dream come true. Yay, Marcus. We've got a film coming out this month, which is a multi-time face CG film, which will be hopefully good. It's different. Again, they're all different. That's fun. And then hopefully December, the Doctor Who film. And then hopefully January, the big thing. It's a secret. I don't talk about it, except the excitement I have of it. But you'll know it when it starts to come out, because it's different again. And then, we'll see what comes up next year. if there's marriage and babies, maybe less releases.
Don't do it, please.
But I mean, hey, if the Patreon goes up so much, I mean, there are so many creators on YouTube, like cosplay women or short film makers who live entirely off of Patreon to do their, because I can't monetize fan films, obviously, like there's no ad revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So if that was like 5,000 a month, right, I could do full-time fan films at this level with this cast, with this many sets. You know what I mean? Like, that's not necessarily the dream, because that's a silly dream, but more support equals more ability to do that. And
Note to
that'd be kinda
self:
crazy.
create a group, create a following, keep Sam single, make it a hashtag.
Oh, good. Thanks for that.
That's going to be our thing. I mean, date as much as you want. Just don't get married. Don't keep the money in the fan films.
The money, yeah, the money.
Yeah, I'll be selfish.
Yeah.
So, Trek Shorts and your YouTube channel, 543 Productions.
Yeah, Power 543 Productions, which is my old RuneScape name. I kept it.
Okay.
Yes. Power 543 Productions. Power 543. Easier to understand. Yeah, just check it out. There's a lot of films, and you can watch them in any order, or chronological. Every thumbnail has the actor in their respective era, so you can tell chronologically, the Pip in the costume. So you can find them pretty easily, or watch it randomly, or release order, because there is also, the old, do you watch TOS or first, or do you watch Enterprise first, or do you watch, any are right. Or there are some films where you'll be massively spoiled for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Because they take place in the dark. And like one film with Sean Ferrick, I can't release in for like 2 years. It's like so far in another character's arc, it spoils everything.
Gotcha.
Like, sorry, Sean, we filmed it, but it's so spoilery. Because it's about that.
Yeah. I really appreciate you taking out the time to sit and talk with me. I've been looking
Thanks for watching
forward.
the films, because that was a lot of films to watch. I do appreciate it. What was your favourite? What was your favourite and least favourite? If you had to say.
Can I cheat and give you my favorite ones? It's not that my favorite were the documentary style. So the ones that were the documentary based. If I had to pick one, I would have to say the one that I probably liked the most was Battle of Velsak 2. And that's just because I liked that documentary war style.
Yep. Least favorite? No critique. Just didn't grab you like the other ones.
Let me go back and look here. I'm going to say the Icarus incident.
Okay.
That one, just not that there was anything wrong with it.
Alexa was great though, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's just,
Yeah.
It was just one that I felt like I came out of it not understanding what happened. And that's not a bad thing. That's not bad script writing.
Don't worry. It's everyone sees things differently, right?
Yeah, everyone sees things differently. It was just the one that I felt like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on? Maybe it was just me. Maybe because I was watching it while I was doing work. Maybe I got extra distracted on something and I missed a piece.
If you missed the one line or the two lines, like, it's like, well, that's why.
Right, yeah.
Just rewatch that last scene again, and it kind of explains the plot. That's.
Yeah, so if it gun to head, if I had to say which one was the least, I would have to say that one. And that's tough because you have so much good work here. But I would say collectively my favorite one is those documentary style ones. I really think that's your stride right there. I really feel like if there's that thing that your films would be known for, it's the documentary style, the parallel storytelling with events that happened that we've seen on screen. Just my opinion.
Thank you. I hope you'll support me so I can keep doing more, because there's a lot of ideas you could do. And the cast are all so good. Any of them you could put in any situation, give or take. Like how would Reed be in the Dominion War? Probably not good.
Right.
Probably not good.
Yes.
Interesting.
So looking forward to seeing all of these. Thank you for all of you that are watching or listening. Big J with Beyond Trek Podcast. Sat here with Sam Cockings. Now, do you like Sam or Samuel?
Sam, but I'm Samuel, but Sam,
Okay.
girlfriend's forced the Sam in me, so.
Okay. So follow him on YouTube, Google him. He's got all the stuff out there. Thank you very much. That is the podcast. And I know it was a long one, but we had so much to talk about, and I'm sure there'd be so much more also. But I appreciate your time, and live long and prosper. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can support us at patreon.com/BeyondTrek.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.